Mark in the count. The swing arm now coming back as our countdown continues.
Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Sunday. And I'm joined today by a brew drinker and Adam Van Winkler, aka, actually, it sounds better when you say it. What do you go by on Instagram?
I'm playing with myself.
Yes, he is. Indeed. He may, in fact, be doing so at the moment. But
no pants.
Special deal today. Welcome, everybody. Hope everyone's having a wonderful weekend. Hopefully, you're getting a long weekend and happy MLK Day in advance. That's what I'm noting it is. But today is going to be kind of a special deal. We're doing a cover story. Not going to do the normal news as we do. Maybe I would love to have Adam back another day to actually just talk through a bunch of other people's toys. But today we're going to focus on the Cursed Dead, which, if you've been watching, like we've been covering this for a couple weeks now, even like when you started teasing stuff, I want to say like even well before, as things were popping up at different cons, like, hey, check these out. What are these? And I was at Legion's Con and got to stop by and check stuff out over on Wade's table. So the folks who are watching today or on the replay are well aware that you all just kicked off this thing about half a month ago, right? And you've got a little over halfway. So
yeah, we got basically 2 weeks left at this point. It ends on Saturday, February 1st.
So you folks have a couple of weeks, and really we have a goal, and the goal is to make sure that everybody knows about this thing. And if you're even lightweight considering backing, to get you to do it now so that we can move this thing forward. And so that's our main focus today. Let me say first, I know I've seen you on streams. We were talking about this backstage, that you've got loved ones in the Pasadena area and you yourself are in the LA area. And so, I'm glad to hear that everybody's in your immediate circles are safe. As folks know who have been watching here too. Yep. My brother, my parents are safe. They actually were able to move back in, and electricity for my parents and gas was turned on today. But, massive cleanup. Like they're in, but it's now they're actually trying to slowly rebuild. We were lucky. And so still, like, thoughts, all those things are out with all those folks.
Yeah, we were just talking about it. Your family and my wife's family are all really right around the same area. Close. And it's while everyone's okay, it's been definitely emotionally taxing on everyone, as I'm sure it has been with you and your family. But my heart goes out to everyone that did lose their homes. Like, that's awful. I can't even imagine what that begins to look like. But luckily everyone's safe now, and we're hoping that the winds are going to get crazy this next week. But we're hoping that everyone's a little bit more prepared now. And
you yourself are prepared. I know you've kind of talked about how you've got your bags ready.
We were right next to an evacuation zone, and literally I'm looking. We have suitcases and animal carriers sitting in the living room that I have not put away yet. So I don't think we're totally out of it, but in general, hoping for the best.
Yes. Well, with that said, let's go ahead and say hello to everybody. And where is that, man? It's like I do this every week, and here it is. What's going on? This guy, real quick, the Cursed Dead. Number one, backer number one. I was slow. 11 people later, I'm backer number 12. So
I mean, that's very respectful.
Josh Brown. Well, Hats off to you, Josh Brown. I love it. Larry's Geeky World is here as well. Good to see you, sir. Hope you're enjoying living in your new cat's lair. Saw that unboxing. Looks amazing.
We actually, hey, I know what we're going to get into this later of day job stuff, but Gentle Giant Studios actually 3D printed and painted the Thundercats lair, that the original prototype that Super 7 showed off at San Diego Comic-Con. So
okay. Let's get into your day. Yeah, we'll definitely get into your day job to kind of let folks know who's behind this.
I'm jumping ahead.
No, perfect.
Chat names.
Yeah, you know how this works.
Yeah.
If you all didn't know, like, he's also like one of the Toy Migos who I love. And
I'm a part-timer.
Yeah. He loves reading the names. Okay, JMac77 is here. Hello, sir. Ray Black, if I didn't say that out loud, let me say it hello. Hello. Love you and glad you are here. Quip, what's going on? Who I will be able to hang out with next week for his first live stream ever. One like yourself might claim that I'm popping his cherries. So nice. Rick Jones, what's up? Sath, hello. Ray Paz is here. Look that way. Looks that way. Face is kind of red there, Adam. What's going on?
Yeah, it's probably high blood pressure.
Oh, is that what it is? Yeah, dude, it's stress. This is in regards to your fashion, your ensemble right now.
Oh yeah.
What are you doing?
Ready to fight.
Nolan, hello, sir. Yabba dabba doo. Mr. Wonderful, aka Travis. Yes, hello. Chris Bouchard, hello. Andrew Gady's Toys, ahoy hoy, welcome. Let's see. I can't do it like Ernie. Ernie's got the flair. But Justin Mohan,
the DJ background, like,
it is.
You know, it's just like it comes naturally to him.
Yeah, I know. Justin Mohan, great to see you. He's already got questions, and I'm definitely going to be starring those, and we'll get back to them. Gabriel, hello, sir. Highly articulated. No, you're good. He says he does a show right before, and go watch that. Great breakdown of the toys that he's looking at forward to in 2025 that are actually going to be in hand. And it's kind of related to what we're going to talk about today, but I was sitting back listening to him kind of list out all the toys. And of course, there's a lot of the Hasbro stuff that's in there, some Mattel stuff, but then like everything else is just like folks like yourself creating these like amazing new toys from all sorts of different genres and backgrounds. And
it's great.
It's an amazing freaking time. E. McNeil, hello, sir. Thank you so much for joining us. And Allison Troy, Retro Toy Princess. Hello. And Punk with Toys. He's talking to you. That's the Mr. Perfect Hair.
I don't know. I think that's yours.
Yeah, he gives me that all the time.
Mussy.
Perfect. All right, folks. Hello. Let's talk. Let's talk to Adam over here. Adam Van Winkler. You yourself are a toy professional. It's a thing people say. A professional toy and a toy professional.
I pretend. Yeah.
Yes. Oh shoot! Look at this guy. This guy again. What's up, Trevor?
Oh snap!
And Mint with Card, and of course Thanos. Okay. So can you give us a little bit of background? Because I know this is like your endeavor. Actually, let's do this properly. I'm sorry, man. It's
no. Let's. You lead the way, and I know.
I'm trying to say. Clumsy as hell, but I'm trying to. Okay, we're gonna do this. We're gonna go put ourselves over here, and this is the Cursed Dead, folks. Hey, look at that. This is the Kickstarter that we're gonna talk about, and this guy, along with let's name check Phil Ramirez and
Josh Falcon, who is the younger brother of Jesse Falcon. Yeah,
because there's several Falcons involved in your media press tour. So
exactly, yeah, we've been having Jesse's been jumping on more. Josh is for work. He travels all the time, so
gotcha.
He also has a youngin, so I mean, we all of us have kids, but he has the youngest of the kids, so he's been otherwise occupied. I'm hoping to get him on a stream at some point coming up, but Josh and Phil have been best friends forever. Phil has obviously been working in the toy industry for 30 plus years and worked like for Jesse Falcon on so many different toy lines. So they've been really tight for a long time. I have been in the toy industry since 2001. I moved to LA in 2005. And then I was working at Soda Toys at the time, which was doing, Street Fighter and Now Playing. And then a job opening popped up at Gentle Giant Studios in October of 2006.
Okay.
I went, interviewed for it, started basically immediately, and I've been working there ever since. So this is my 19th year at Gentle Giant Studios. I am the creative director, so I oversee the prototyping division. So any of the toy companies that come to Gentle Giant Studios, like Hasbro, Mattel, Diamond, Dark Horse, Jazzwares, you name it. We've worked with every single major toy company and a ton of minor ones. They come to us and they hire us to do some aspect of creating prototypes. Whether that's digital sculpting, 3D printing, molding, casting, painting, you name it. We also offer manufacturing services. So we do start to finish. It could even be just as simple as concept artwork. So
gotcha.
Every service in the toy industry is available at Gentle Giant Studios, and I'm the one overseeing that. So I'm working with all of our artists in-house, and then I am the person that is going back and forth with the clients as well. So I'm the main point of contact there.
Yeah, creative director wearing many hats. Before we go there, and I will definitely I'm going to sort of scroll through these because this is your Instagram. Playing with myself, playing _ myself, underscore all that. But just to kind of show folks some of the things that you work on. But a lot of these are just oh my God, you got to impact.
To be perfectly honest, my Instagram too is focused entirely on action figures. We do a lot more. I mean, we sculpt Pez dispensers.
Stuff,
we do there's way more to what Gentle Giant does than just action figures. But obviously, action figures is something I'm passionate about. So that's my Instagram page is my own personal pictures of action figures that we've been involved in prototyping. So it's kind of limited in scope as far as what I do at Gentle Giant, but it does seem it's pretty big because obviously we work on a lot of action figures. So
So can I ask what, as far as the creative background, because you kind of went past the soda thing pretty quickly, but what kind of work were you doing? Were you sculpting? Were you concepting?
So I'm a transplant from New York. My family, born and raised. I went to FIT, which is an art school in New York City. And my first job in toys was straight out of college. I got a job at a toy prototyping studio in Hoboken, New Jersey.
Wow.
And they were doing work for Toy Biz and McFarlane were two of their big clients. Toy Biz, it was actually the very they had been doing a lot of the 5-inch stuff, but it was the very I started there. I remember I actually bought the first wave of Marvel Legends while I was working there. So Spider-Man Classics was just starting to hit, and then I think it was X2 had just come out, so we were working on some of that. Spider-Man movie had come out, so we were working on some of that. The ass end of Lord of the Rings, so that as well, and then a bunch.
Which is the ass end?
But anyway, exactly. The Return of the King.
Gotcha.
The movie that had 8 ass end endings during the course of the movie as well, and that's I say that very lovingly because Lord of the Rings are that's near and dear to me. It's one of my favorites. I'm a big nerd for fantasy stuff as 100%. Well. So I started there, but I went in for a tour because a friend of mine from college had met the owner and knew that I was such a big toy nerd that they were like, "Yo, do you want to see if I can get you a tour of this toy prototyping studio?" And I was like, hells yeah. So
Yeah.
luckily I got a tour. I went in and I just basically begged them for a job. I was like, this, like I'd gone to art school, but my background was more advertising, graphic design background. And I'd always loved toys and comic books. You know, I was like, back then I was still going to the comic book store every week to pick up new issues of stuff. Right. But sadly I've run out of like the space and somewhat the funds now. So now I just pick up trade paperbacks and read digitally. But I am still a nerd for all of that. So I basically begged them for a job, and they had an opening in their mold shop. And mold shop is the dirtiest work. It's you're creating silicone molds and pouring resin castings and then cleaning those castings. So it's like, it's not really sculpting work, but it is, you have to respect the sculpt as you're cleaning resin castings, because everything, it's 2-part mold making. So there's an art to mold making too, that you basically are spruing all of the pieces, pouring silicone around it, and then you're cutting the piece out of this silicone mold. So that way you can then have that negative of the silicone mold, and then you pour liquid resin that kicks. It's usually about like 15 minutes or so, and it becomes a solid resin part. And then you have to clean up those parts. So you have to snip off sprues, clean the seam lines, and make sure everything fits together. Because this is
all while. Sorry, I just wanted to say, as you mentioned, because it's like all while paying attention to the sculpt and making sure that it is a real clean representation of what the sculpt intended, and like trying to carry through the process. Yeah,
exactly. And like the big thing back in the day too is like, you know, like I was just talking about like, oh, we were working on like the Spider-Man movie parts and everything. And let me tell you, mold making and resin castings with stuff that's then coated in texture, like Spider-Man's movie suit, getting a perfect casting of that is so unbelievably difficult, because the whole costume has texture all over it,
lines everywhere,
and then
texture,
like, bumps and everything, and it's like getting like, you know, cleaning off any sprues and then seam lines on a casting like that's like coated in texture, pain in the butt. But now everything's pretty much digital these days, and we do a lot. We still do mold making at Gentle Giant, but it's a lot more rare. We actually 3D print most of everything, because the 3D printing has come so far as the technology, the resolution of the parts, but also the affordability of 3D printing has you know, it keeps getting better and better. So a lot of time, if we're doing multiple copies of things, we don't necessarily make a mold and do castings unless you're doing a bunch. If you're only doing like onesie twosies, then you just 3D print and go directly to final there, whether it's tooling master or paint master. Like a lot of times we're just painting 3D printed pieces.
Let me pause you for a second. I just want to underscore, because, you know, like when part of this is like, one, it's just fascinating to hear you talk about your background, but also for the purposes of you all coming together to create a brand new toy line. Thinking about, you know, you've said this a bunch of times on different streams, like, oh, we've got all this background, but you've seen the industry shift in terms of how things are produced and who's producing them. And so the knowledge, the wealth of knowledge that comes from that, being there when you were doing the molds, to now moving to, you know, 3D production, where the prototyping phase has changed, but all that past experience informs what you're doing. And I just want to like highlight, because, you know, like people get figures, whatever, this maybe like whatever, but I just we were looking at this yesterday, but like, you take a figure and people are like, oh, look at the QC issue or whatever. You understand why things are the way they are. You're like, when people are upset about a certain thing, or like, why can't they do this? You've been around as well as
there's
Phil.
usually a reason.
Yes.
It's not always a good one.
Yes.
But there's usually a reason.
And I'm saying that not to excuse or whatever. Like,
oh no, exactly. It's not to be an apologist of any type, but like, there's usually some type of reason behind any of this, and sometimes it is just an error, and that's a reason as well. But like, there's definitely a lot there. You know, every toy goes through so many different hands typically. And there's a lot of chefs in the kitchen. So especially with licensed properties where you're dealing with, you know, licensee, licensor, and then if it's actual based on a real person, you're dealing with talent approvals as well, and, you know, movie studio approvals. There's so many different aspects of making like toys in general that can throw wrenches into the works just all the time.
And I bring that all up because, again, in the context of yourself, of Phil, of Josh coming together to say like, hey, we've been working for folks. And I've been scrolling through this to kind of show folks, by the way, if you're in the chat, whether it's live or in the replay, and like, you know, let us know any of these figures. If you're like, I have that figure, or I had that figure, and kind of just like internalize like, hey, this guy and other folks, they worked on that, and now they're taking their knowledge of working on stuff for Hasbro or Warner Brothers or whatever it is, and Lucasfilm and all that, and now bringing it into this new era of like, we have ideas that we want to do, and we want to contribute to like this I don't know, what is this realm of this industry or whatever it is, this pop cultural like phenomenon of people buying little plastic things of stuff that they love. Like, let's be creators now and take all that knowledge. So just want to give that background. And like, honestly, I'm scrolling through this stuff, and man, it's amazing how like, and props on the branding, the identity that's going on in there. Well done. I appreciate it.
Rick, I got to mention too, because you said you're not going to go over news today, but there obviously was just a Hasbro reveal that was pretty epic. And there's a pretty epic new Spider-Man action figure that was revealed, which I will say was digitally sculpted. The prototype was made at Gentle Giant Studios. Renee Aldrete, who is a close personal friend of mine, he works at Gentle Giant Studios. He's one of my best friends. He worked at Soda Toys with me back in the day, and I basically, when I got the job at Gentle Giant Studios, shortly thereafter, I totally just plucked him out of Soda and brought him over to Gentle Giant. He's been there ever since. He was a groomsman in my wedding. Beautiful. But a very, very close personal friend of mine. He was the digital sculptor behind it. But yeah, Gentle Giant Studios worked on that Hasbro Marvel Legends Spider-Man, and I will likely, once that hits, I will likely be updating my my avatar with a new twerking Spider-Man.
Yes, because the flexibility of that figure will offer just a little bit more sass in that pose. So. But just all that to say, man, look at all this stuff. This is amazing. Like the stuff that you've had a hand in, and I'm assuming like you didn't really talk so much about it, but you've been nerdy. You said comic books and everything. Yeah. So like, it must be a thing to be like, I'm working on whatever, a Boba Fett.
Oh yeah. I've never outgrown toys. I never went through that period of not being into toys or comics. I've grown up with it. I have like basically been buying action figures my whole life. I rarely sell anything, so I have a ridiculous collection of stuff. My garage is filled with bins and bins and bins of toys that are not on display. Luckily, I do have this around me with a bunch of stuff on display, but it is a fraction of my collection. I did, and you know, like we started with like, hey, I did molding and casting work. I did also sculpt some things that have been produced. They're not great. I definitely, what is great about my job now is that I get to oversee guys that are way more talented than I ever was, but I get to kind of help guide the project along and bring in some of that knowledge and nerdiness that I have from so many years. So it's like, not everyone that is working on all of these individual properties knows them backwards and forward, or like, like all the ins and outs. So I think that that's one of my strengths, is I bring a lot of that to them, you know, like I can oversee, and I can say like, hey, let's take influences from here and there. And, you know, like a lot of our clients that we work with at Gentle Giant, I get to be involved in discussions with them as far as like, hey, what if we tried this? What if we did this? Or what if we made this look like this? You know, like, so it's a really great job. I love my job. I get to work on so many different licenses that I'm a giant nerd for. But yeah, this is another toy line that another indie toy line like the Cursed Dead that I'm trying to develop with two of my coworkers. Rene
Amazing, man.
Aldrete was the sculptor. He's behind the sculpt of these, and then it's also being painted and the story written by my other close personal friend, Beardy. He goes by Beardy. His real name is Scott, but I lovingly gave him the nickname Beardy because he has a giant epic beard, and I'm very clever. But Beardy also, I know Beardy from customizing action figures a really long time ago. So I had recommended him for a job at Soda Toys, and he went and he worked at Soda after I had left. So I had left Soda and went to Gentle Giant, but I knew Beardy as a customizer and like talented and passionate about toys. So I was like, hey, this guy could be a really good fit at Soda. And he got the job at Soda, worked there for a couple of years, and then I cherry picked him from from Soda as well, and I pulled him over. He at the time was working in our paint department because he can do lots of things, but he's a very talented painter from his customizing background, and he manages the paint shop at Gentle Giant Studios.
Awesome.
He was my other groomsmen in my wedding.
I love it. Surround yourself with your friends and your talent and
friends and passion. Yeah, you know, like it's like it's so great, and it's like, you know, we can talk about everything nerdy and also just lives in general, and it's a really cool, like the Mortal Ruin is also like basic. It's been ready to go. It's just we led with Cursed Dead just because I don't know reasons. But Mortal Ruin is a great property. It's one that I am super passionate about, that I think has a lot of legs to grow. People will look at it and they'll be like, oh, it's another, 1/12 scale military line. But that's just kind of like how we were positioning it to start. This line, Mortal Ruin, Beardy is the brains behind the storyline, and it's post-apocalyptic. It's like takes place after the final World War, and we're talking about like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years down the road. So that's like there's been nuclear things have happened. We're big fans of like lines like Acid Rain. So you can see some influences there, but our influences we like Mad Max and like some Metal Gear Solid vibes, but like it's supposed to go way more post-apocalyptic and sci-fi, so it's not just military. There's a lot more to it, but I'll leave that for teasing at another time as we get closer to figuring out what we're going to do with that. Sure. But I'm very excited about that line as well.
We've looked at it here too, whenever you brought them to shows and just kind of covering it, so definitely folks are aware and are anticipating. But one at a time. We've got a thing to get done, which is the Cursed Dead before February 1st. We got to make sure that starts. But hey, real quick, speaking of passion and friends, this guy, it's the friendly neighborhood playing with myself and Brick something. What's up, Chan? I'm assuming Chaney, Toy Migos. Thank you very much. Super generous.
The one with the super chat. Car.
Yeah, the one with the keys to the car. Appreciate that, man. I'm still wrap my head around every time I get like this super chat thing. But anyway, thank you, Chaney, and thank you for being here. As I was saying, yes, Mortal Ruin, those look amazing. And again, I think it's real indicative of where we're at, right? We're getting all sorts of really cool new toy lines, and there's sorts of like these different genres that I'm so happy to have folks like yourself who are, we're roughly the same age. I know where you're at, born in 76 over here. And the touchstones culturally, right, are like, like you were saying, the post-apocalyptic kind of thing, like your Rick Jones is name checking Mad Max, because you brought it up. Yeah. And just like, of course, Marvel Comics, all of that stuff. And like, how do we then get some of that stuff on our shelf that can like move this game forward in 2025? And so, I know you kind of like couches, like, I know at first it looks like this, like, man, whatever. It's something new, right?
And that's,
I love, yeah.
Again, and I mean, like anyone that knows me or seen myself, it's like I have a shelf of GI Joe Classified up
Yeah.
here. I collect the GI Joe Mezco stuff. I have a ton of Valaverse as well. Like I love all of these types of toy lines, and our toy line could mesh perfectly with those lines, and you could use them as supplementary characters to either or both. But it is its own thing, and it is a much different kind of storyline and path that we're hoping to take with that line. So it's not just, cookie cutter in general, I promise you, but it's definitely one I'm very excited about showing more down the road for sure.
Cool. Well, we'll get to the Cursed Dead, but that, like, folks, this is who is behind 1/3 of who's behind the Cursed Dead, which I swear we're going to get to. But like, take a look at this stuff. But it's context. It's context. And let's talk about your partner.
And the context, I'll tell you that Renee helped out with developing some of the articulation because Phil is a mastermind and has been working on super articulated toys from the early Toy Biz Marvel Legends days. But Renee is a master in the field of digital sculpting, so he actually helped Phil with the final engineering of all of the articulated parts. Like when you look at our exploded view too,
I love that.
Of the figure, it's like that is all entirely, like, the engineering was stuff that Phil had started and then Renee brought over to the finish line. So Renee was involved with the Cursed Dead as well, and on top of that, Beardy has painted like
keeping it in the family.
At least a third of the paint masters for the Cursed Dead. So there's talent overlap between the two indie toy lines that I'm involved with as well. And that's just 100%. Because, like, I know a lot of super talented people and I like working with them.
And even the ones you're not working with, like, you guys are always talking to each other. I've seen it, hanging out with Spiro. So they're in the same boat of, like, Arlen's been sculpting for a lot of the things that you've worked on,
Totally. I'm looking forward to backing his campaign that's coming out. It's launching in March, I believe, and it looks awesome.
I want everyone to understand how amazing this moment is for toys, and I think,
I mean, I'm cool with promoting because Death Metal Dan, part of Spiro, is going to be launching the Bushido line that looks awesome as well. And I talked to him, like, I was actually just emailing with him about work stuff that's totally unrelated to any of these things that we're talking about right now, and it's like, he's a super cool guy, super talented as well. So it's like, more than anything, I encourage people to back these indie toy lines. And it's like, I know that they can be a little bit more expensive than, what you're used to with mass market, or even like, that even the high end, like the Mezcos of the world, the SHF, the Mafex. And it's like, these are all companies that we're trying to start out. And I super respect Vala for, a couple of waves in, he's able to work out a deal with his factory where he's, either the minimum order quantity units have changed or whatever, and he's getting better deals from his factory and passes on those savings with the price drops to the customers. And it's like, that's dope. I hope that someday we get far enough along that we can start doing the same thing. So our figures are all priced based on us trying to just make these things a reality. It's not like, oh, we're pulling numbers out of our butts. It's like, no, we sent everything to the factory before we launched our campaign, and all of our pricing is based on factory costs. So that's what we're looking at here. 5 basic figures, 4 deluxe, and like they're priced so that way we can make these things and we can make high quality figures, that's what we're looking to do.
Let's go there since you brought it up, and then we'll go back to Phil's sort of bona fides. But this is the goal, $175,000. As you just sort of flew by, like, they understand this process. They've worked with the factory to have a conversation around how much things are going to cost. I'm going to assume that, like, you probably packed in some wiggle room, but still, knowing how these things go, like, we want to move way past that 175,000 goal to make this, like, really
I mean, to be
happen.
perfectly honest, like we want to move past the $175,000 goal and into the stretch goals and everything too, because toys do cost quite a bit of money to make. $175,000 is our goal, but if we just squeak by, if we make our $175,000, Phil, Josh, and myself, we're gonna have to take a loan out from a bank to cover full production costs, because tooling is very expensive, and then we have 9 figures that we're making, and you have to hit minimum order quantities with the factory, so you have to make thousands, and we have 9 of our characters. So if you take those 9 figures and you multiply that by thousands, and then the unit cost for the factory plus the tooling, it's more expensive than that to produce our toy line. We're absolutely prepared to do that. Like, that's it's a thing, and that's why we set the goal, because we were like, hey, we don't want to make a goal that sounds absolutely crazy to people. We want one that sounds, reasonable. But to produce this toy line, it's going to cost more money than that. And that's like to show you guys that, like, this isn't some, fly by night, like, cash grab. It's like, no, we're making this because we're passionate about it. And this isn't, like, at least not with wave 1, we're not trying to make money. We're just trying not to lose money. Like we do. Like, I love working in toys, but I live paycheck to paycheck. I have credit card debt. I buy too many toys. Like, me, like, I'm not like some rich dude, and I can't bankroll this project. So we're just trying to be realistic with our prices here.
Let me say, I laugh when folks are like, this impression that somehow this is a cash grab or whatever. It's like, man, you straight up said it. If we get 175,000, we're taking out a loan. But it's the passion, right? It's like, and we know that, like, you're clearly, like, you and Phil have been basically a lifetime of working on these toys.
Oh, yeah. So Phil was almost like a child worker in the industry. Like, he started at 17 sculpting Playmates Ninja Turtles.
Right. So it's not like you don't have a creative outlet to do this stuff, but I know there's a difference in you just said, I'm a creative director, and we're working with these other companies who like these big licenses. So there's a lot of people, like cooks in the kitchen, right? Giving comments, giving notes, saying, no, we need to hit this. No, we need to pull this budget back. So we got to change this. This is the opportunity for you, Phil, Josh, to...
Jesse will be very happy. He's our cheerleader. So
to take something from beginning to end.
Absolutely.
This concept of this, like, this super unique concept of, like, hey, let's do these I don't mean this in any negative way, because some people are like, B movie. No, that's a badge of honor. But like horror B movie characters, like an anthology, and be like, hey, what if we were producing films? I know I heard Phil name check, was it Tales from the Crypt? Like, hey, every time we're going to do this, like, horror, like, little movie, and we're going to take the monster or the creature, and they're going to be front in the spotlight, and this is the Dr. Scante, right, movie, and here is the figure. This is the Gordy movie, and here is the awesome figure for you to take home. And, like, all of that stuff I think is super brilliant, and we haven't quite seen it in that way. And so this is a big deal. This is why it's worth trying to get people to back. So again, if you're into action figures, I think the reason I keep bringing folks on with Kickstarters here and try and push the indie thing is, I think if we're going to keep this sort of space of action figures alive and healthy and innovative, supporting the indies is super important, despite it being maybe just a little more expensive than you're used to picking up figs at Target. But I will say, in this day and age, like, if I look at the toys that I have on my shelf, right, they're not, I'm already paying $35 to $40 for figures. And if I can take some of that money to buy 1, 2, or more to make something new happen, to broaden the landscape of toys, I'm all for it. That, real quick, before we go, I want to name 2 things. After this, actually kind of while we'll probably keep going, but at 8 p.m. Eastern, Phil who's not here today, if people were wondering, like, why isn't Phil here? It's because, man, these guys have been on streams everywhere. So Phil's going to go hang out with this handsome young gentleman over here, Yimbo, on Yimbo
We're
Reviews.
splitting duties. You got me. You guys got stuck with me.
No. Yeah, man, these guys have been working really hard. Something happened today where they remember that they have families and loved ones that they're supposed to spend time with. So they're like, okay, let's split up the duties. So we've got Adam today. I just want to let you know, 8 o'clock, if you want to hear from Phil, you can go over there. No shame. But yeah. And then I will also say there was, oh my God, I'm so bad at this. Hey, Christopher Bouchard would like everybody to know that he is now backer number 412. He is 400 after me. And that's not a flex. That's like, that is amazing. That's awesome. 412 or however many there are now. Wait, I should reload. That there are 412 people. And how does that work actually? Because it's saying 387 here. Do you know what that's about?
Sometimes it doesn't refresh right away. Okay. It's like it's very funny. So yeah, gotcha. I don't know why it would say backer 412 with
well, let me say thank you to Chris for doing the super chat.
Awesome.
That's awesome here. But thank you, more importantly, for backing this and contributing to the Indie Toy thing. And you're welcome, because you're going to get some Taupe toys in a little bit. So that's awesome. Okay. Oh, and hey, we can't ignore the other guy. This guy. Oops.
Oh,
Yimbo, 100%. This guy, Plastiadicto. Yeah, look at this.
Much to what you were just saying, Brick. Yeah. Plasty, I owe him everything. I don't know. While I appear on lots of different live streams all over the internet, I do not YouTube myself. I am not a big YouTube guy. I do have a YouTube account, but what I've done in the past is I don't do live streams. I don't post content. I just save my appearances as different playlists. So Plasty was like, you need to do that with the Cursed Dead, and I will help with content. So I basically, as soon as we launched the campaign, Plasty gave me that bit of advice. I created the YouTube page. So we're at the Cursed Dead on YouTube. I've been saving every appearance as playlists. So obviously this will be saved as a playlist. It actually already is, because you would set it up beforehand. So in our playlists, you're in there.
That's the teacher in me who's often over prepared.
Exactly. Yes. Prepared. I love it. And then Yimbo did the same, so you could see the Yimbo reviews everything Toy Daddies. There's a playlist already for the upcoming stream later, so Phil will be in there. So you can go to our YouTube page and find all of these different appearances that we've been doing. And on top of that, Plasty has been absolutely amazing, because he's been doing clips of a lot of our different appearances. He's doing like info videos, and he's posting all of those as well. So thank you to Plasty. Like, the toy community is just really awesome, and I love it when they come together and like support one another. It's like the coolest thing in the world. And even the indie toy community, I love seeing support back and forth with that stuff, because like, even when it comes to, I was talking about this with Mortal Ruin, and being like, oh, at first glance it might just look like another military focus line, but it's like, hey, the idea, guys, is that these lines can coexist. It just because Marvel makes superheroes doesn't mean that DC can't make superheroes. It's like there's a healthiness to this. So it's like there's nothing to be said where you have to like pick sides or something. It's like, no,
garbage. Yeah.
Having cool toys is a good thing. So having choices is cool. And then also buying from each of them and having them coexist on your shelves in toy photography, on separate shelves, on shelves together, whatever. It's cool. Trust me. I buy a ton of toy lines. You can do it too. Like, you can, you don't have to pick and choose.
Nope, you really don't, man. See, like Marvel and DC, they can hang out together, folks. That's the beauty of where we're in. Like, I grew up loving this guy, and I grew up loving this guy, and now they're hanging out on my shelf playing with AWOC and whoever else, right? So soon enough, we're gonna get some drinkers up here. We're gonna get some gins. We're gonna get hate and rage, and I swear we're gonna look at those. But the truth is, like as they've said, they've been doing the tours. So I wanted to give a little bit of the background, and then we'll look at the toys, and then we'll call it a day. Let's shift now. Let's go talk about Phil, because this is Phil's Instagram, Ramirez Studios Inc. 3D, and I'll put that in the live stream chat now. But Phil, as you said, Ramirez, Boyle Heights. I grew up in Downey, California. I wanted to ask him this, but I'll ask him another time, because he reminds me of a buddy, last name Ramirez. I wonder if they're related in Southgate, Hollydale area, which is not far from Boyle Heights.
He has family. He's not an only child, so there's a chance. There's some crossovers, because
and I know plenty of Boyle Heights kids.
Area.
Yeah. Well, I grew up Downey, Southgate area, Norwalk, and I also know a lot of Boyle Heights kids as well. And knowing a little bit about it's like, let's just say, fun childhood.
Yeah. I think you're like a year or two older than I am, and Phil is probably like a year or two older than you. Yeah, so it's like we're all pretty close.
That said, now here, look at this handsome fellas over here. But looking at all this stuff, right? This stuff goes back years, and I didn't even go like all the way down. But I mean, it's like I remember this, like chilling in the whatever it's Kmart or KB or wherever I was grabbing those figures from. Like this is the stuff that Phil is worked on. He is
literally a legend. So I was telling you guys how I started in the toy industry in 2001, and we were doing work for Toy Biz on the side. So that's how I met like Jesse Falcon, and Damon Nee was working there at the time. And Damon Nee actually is another close personal friend of mine. He is now one of the designer directors over at Mattel, overseeing the Masters of the Universe stuff, which is fabulous as well. And also why you've seen Phil has worked on some of those items also. So toy industry is also a small, tight-knit world as well. But so I was working at a prototype studio that was doing work for Jesse Falcon, and we would do some molding and casting work that wasn't items that we necessarily sculpted in-house. So we would get sculpts from Phil that we had to mold and cast. So I was working on Phil's work. I was already a fan of Phil from even beforehand. I had heard of him from when I had initially met Jesse in New York at a toy show, and he had showed me some of Phil's sculpts, which were for the Toy Biz X-Men 5-inch lines. And he had been doing amazing sculpt work there. So I was like, this Phil Ramirez guy is bonkers, you know? And like, I think he had profiles in Toy Fair magazine and everything. And I was like, this guy's a rock star. So I had heard about him from across the country in the toy industry. So he was already legendary in my eyes. But then with launching of Marvel Legends and everything, it was like, you know, guys like Jesse and Phil became like rock stars to me as someone who was just starting out in the toy industry. And then obviously Jesse had already been working with Phil, and then fast forward to when I moved to the West Coast, Josh Falcon was already living on the West Coast, and Josh and Phil had been friends for years. Actually, they have multiple bands together and have done all sorts of stuff like that. So that's another part of the connection there. But when I moved out, I finally got to start meeting and hanging out with Phil in person, and we've been friends ever since. You know, he knows how much I respect his body of work. It's crazy, you know. Like I told you, I never outgrew toys, so I was buying toys that he worked on. You know, when I was 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, going on and on and on, and it's like he was young sculpting these things and I was buying them, and I would, at the time I didn't know that he had sculpted them. I learned after the fact, but I remember the first time. So these the pictures that you're showing now with the bright background are pictures from Phil's studio. So Phil has a studio here in LA. It's connected to his house, and I remember when I first walked in there, like my jaw dropped. He has so many like original castings of all these things that he's worked on over the years. And it's some stuff that's come out, some stuff that hasn't come out, some stuff like the Rick and Morty items. He sculpted these personally. He and I are both big Rick and Morty fans. he just took it upon himself to make his own Rick and Morty toy line, and he
So
did a whole
awesome.
video, like a toy commercial about it. So if you find him on YouTube, he's got like videos with these toys. They're great. They're like the sculpts are so on model. He's such a talented sculptor, and like he does some interesting stuff. I mentioned the band stuff with Josh Falcon, but if you watch the Crankle music video, the Crankle Christmas song music video, that's Phil and Josh worked on that entire thing. Like that's no one outside. It was like Phil and Josh did all of that start to finish with some of Chaney's photos and video as the visuals. So and Crankle's also painted by Nico Hodge, Artman.
I
Custom.
love it, man.
So
it's like, all in the
you know,
family.
like,
Shout out to Nico.
Yeah, and Nico is great. Nico is also a teacher by day, but in his afternoons, he works professionally. He's a contractor painting toys at Gentle Giant Studios. We bring him in whenever we can. Whenever we have too much stuff to be painted, Nico is there working his second job. Like, I love Nico. Absolutely amazing.
So, you know, we've been talking about context, and we're going to come back to Phil's amazing work, but obviously you all are working on this right now, right? And so since you bring up the Crankle thing, and you know, you're talking about people bringing in their background, let's listen to that Crankle thing real quick.
Did you trick your parents to think you're asleep? Did you hide under the couch to catch them? All naughty children, make your peace, because Crankle Claus will make you his treat. He'll grab you by your feet, you can't break free. He'll skin you while you beg and scream. He'll hang all your parts from his Christmas tree. It's an awful sight for all who've seen. So get under your covers and go to bed. You don't want the Crankle to scope your head. He is Santa's biggest fan and does the things that Santa can't. Hide your eyes before he plucks them out. You don't want your parents to hear that awful shout. Beware the Crankle Claus. Beware the Crankle Claus. Beware the Crankle Claus.
So, as
Did you
far
stay
as
up late
it's
for
still
someone
going.
to see?
it's
Well,
right.
you're not getting Santa, you're getting me. I'm Crankle Claus before you count to 3. Your skin will be hung from my Christmas tree. Close your eyes as tight as you can and be as still as a snowman. If I catch you peeking, it's to the tree. I'm Crankle Claus. Would you like to meet me?
The sounds in the back. One, you know, as far as keeping it in the family, there's a bunch of stuff happening there, right? So you've already kind of name checked some of like the painting in there. Was that Nico?
That entire that Crankle figure, all of his accessories were painted by Nico.
Okay, so you've got the beautiful paint job on the figure, that face, the moistness of it, all of that is like the bringing out all that texture in the fur. And then this thing, of course, speaking of moistness, like I don't know how long it's been since that skin has been on a human being, but there's that stuff. And then the photos and the video, right? With some of that beautiful lighting and mist work, fog work right there. That's all Cheney 180. It's really cool. And then, as people have brought up, right, the voice.
Yeah.
That is
Phil wrote the lyrics and then performed the lyrics, and Josh Falcon did all of the sound editing and everything. And obviously it has like Oogie Boogie / Grinch vibes to it, like heavily influenced by Christmas past stuff, but really upped the creepiness and you know the story behind it. Phil was behind the stories of the characters too, because like I insisted
Yes.
that all of these bios had to happen because of my love for G.I. Joe growing up and file cards. So I told Phil, I was like, we need short bios for every single one of these characters. And with Crankle, he was like, I'm writing a Christmas song. And Crankle is meant to be an alien that is obsessed with Santa Claus and has taken it upon himself to enforce some of these rules of Santa Claus, where kids aren't supposed to be staying up late to catch a peek. So Crankle has taken that and really run with it. And Phil has even said too, he initially had meant that that Santa mask was supposed to be like a cheap Halloween plastic mask, but Nico went nuts on it and like painted it all gory and everything, where it literally like, and we've taken this from chat and feedback where we're like, oh no, that's not just a plastic mask. That's Crankle met Mall Santa, and he doesn't really like the idea of Mall Santa because that's fake. That is
You're
not something
the real Santa.
Yeah,
I know Santa.
The real Santa that Crankle is obsessed with. He's not putting up with this fake Santa action. So that is the skinned face of a Mall Santa. Beautiful. Terrifying.
So I mean, you were talking about it and I was like, yeah, we got to take that little break to actually remind folks, these are the kinds of figures that you would be getting if you were backing the Cursed Dead if you've been listening with us, by industry vets like Adam, like Phil, and like Josh. So I love that. I'm loving that.
You had mentioned how the line and this is absolutely the idea of the Cursed Dead is it's like our take on a lot of like classic horror movie characters in across the board. Now you see a bunch of them in wave one, like our take on vampires, our take on a genie with the djinn, and then like our take on Wendigo and all that. But there's also the unique ones like Crankle, which it's like Phil has already actually digitally sculpted a Krampus. The plan is it's on our second base body, which we've also already developed. And there's some digital sculpt images way down in the Cursed Dead Instagram of his take on Krampus. But he came up with the Crankle idea as like, hey, this is it. We're going to make our own Christmas monster. And I freaking adore it. Like, it's like I'm excited about Krampus. I have the Four Horsemen figure Obscura Krampus. I'm like, you can never have enough Krampuses, you know, like they have Fresh Monkey Fiction, you know, Naughty or Nice stuff. Like, it's like, cool, bring on all Krampi. Like, it's like, I love the idea of the Krampus, but Crankle is a new holiday take, like a new unique character, and I'm terrified of it. Like, I absolutely love it. Quip is making the joke too, the elf-based jokes of you sit on a throne of lies.
Right,
and
exactly.
Like, it's like exactly. Think of, instead of it being like a real elf from the North Pole, it's a creepy alien who is like just not a fan of anyone that is messing with the real Santa Claus. Or like
an ultra fan of Santa needs to defend his his boy.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. This stuff is great. I really love what you all are doing. Maybe we'll just let's finish up with Phil's stuff as people can sort of see here, but he's been working 20 years, but let's maybe start segueing.
I think even longer. I think he might be into the 30-year range.
Yeah, 30.
Yeah. He's in his early 50s. I'm blowing up his spot. So. But he's quite a long list. But yeah, he started off working for Playmates. He was actually working for Varner Studios, who is one of the main prototyping studios that Playmates was using for a lot of their toys back then. So he started out just like I did in the mold shop. And he was making molds, sweeping floors, just like me. Like that's the lowest level that you could start at any toy prototyping studio. And he was 17 years old, and he was just, again, like me, he was passionate about toys and comics, and he was a nerd, and he lucked into this job starting in the mold shop. unlike me, he's an unbelievably talented sculptor. And they discovered that when they had him do the Toxic Avenger head. So he sculpted and it's somewhere in that giant Instagram of his that you'll find the Toxie sculpt. He has a casting of the original Toxie sculpt.
Amazing.
And he did
all
that,
this
and
stuff
then,
should be in a museum someday. It belongs in a museum.
He became, after he did that head, they were like, hey, you're a really good sculptor. So they started giving him more and more sculpting work to do, and he became full-fledged sculptor. He worked on a ton of stuff for Playmates. Then he went freelance on his own, and he was doing work for McFarlane back in the early days. I think it was the second wave of Spawn figures. The unmasked Spawn. Phil worked on that. He worked on a bunch of the Youngblood figures that McFarlane released. And then after that is when he started to work for Toy Biz, and that's where he met Jesse Falcon, obviously. Like Jesse said, he remembers when he got Phil's portfolio, and it was just like, holy crap, like, I'm so lucky. Yeah, that's a group of us. So there you go. So you got Vonner, myself.
So much toy.
Yeah, that's Damon Nee, who's working at Mattel, is in there. You got Jesse and Josh Falcon, and that's Junist, who also used to work at Toy Biz, but now works for Nickelodeon. So yeah, it's a bunch of toy industry guys, and I have a mask hanging off my ear because that was shortly after pandemic time, I believe. But yeah, there's the Toxie head too. So like that's a dirty old casting of the Toxic Crusaders Toxie head that he sculpted. So yeah, he has this like Phil's portfolio is ridiculous, and it's like a portfolio that's like it's beyond comprehending, because it's like there's so much stuff that he has done over 30 years that it's absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, started off Toy Biz 5-inch, and then he was integral to the launch of Spider-Man Classics and Marvel Legends. Like he like always says that he did maybe 40% of them. I'm pretty sure that number is higher than that, but he worked on so many of those super articulated Spider-Man Classics and Marvel Legends figures that I think we all kind of owned and paved the way to like this, 1/12 scale world that we're all addicted to now.
What's amazing is that we started like some figures like really old, and then now we're like some of these stuff are just things that just came out last year, right? Or shortly.
He still does work for Playmates, as you can see here on the more recent movie stuff. So and he started off as a traditional sculptor, but he was smart enough to take the reins and learn ZBrush, and he's a digital sculptor now. He does make fun of it. He thinks that he refers to it as pushing pixels, but like he definitely comes from that traditional sculpting fine art background that he's amazing at, and it is a different tool. It's a new tool, but he rolled with it and has made it a success. So I tell everyone, when I started at Gentle Giant Studios, we were like, basically the studio itself was about 50-50 traditional sculpting and digital sculpting. And this was back in 2006. So we still had guys that were sculpting stuff from scratch using clay, castelline, or wax. And then we had some digital guys who were 3D printing. And then because of the technology at the time, even for stuff that we sculpted digitally and 3D printed, we were usually making silicone molds of those pieces, pouring melted wax into those molds. So that way you could then have a wax sculpt that you could refine. So even the digital stuff was still going into traditional sculptors' hands back in the early 2000s. But now today we're 99.9. We're basically all digital. Everything is fully digital at this point. We do still 3D print and do molding, casting, hand painting, but anything sculpturally it's pretty much all digital. And Phil learns ZBrush and is great at it.
It's great. He's big in Japan. Like, here's the proof. I love that. Like, they literally put his birthday, but in that magazine. But this
so now you can figure it out. You can figure exactly how old his ass is. I love that one. The piece that you scrolled by. That was a piece that he sculpted for himself. The Thing, as
this one
calls
Thinker?
it the Thinker. So it's the take on the fine art classic, The Thinker.
Rodin's Thinker.
Phil, one of his favorite characters is the Thing. So during the pandemic, when he was bored in between jobs, he sculpted the Thinker. And I'm like, anyone that has the Marvel license for statues and stuff should absolutely like jump on this. Like, get Phil to get you the digital prototype, and like, come on, how, like, it's like, I action figure, I don't really statue so much, but it's such a great idea.
It is the Thinker. I love it. That's brilliant. Yeah. So, I mean, obviously we've got folks here with the pedigree, and I think people hear that. The one thing I want to point out are stuff like this. Clearly, he's got a love and affinity for horror, which is the transition to the thing that you all are doing now. He loves the creatures. Just look at the love that's getting poured into like these sort of like extreme anatomy, right? That is very much influenced by old school horror movies, right? Some body horror stuff, some Cronenberg in there. Look at that. Look at this gorgeous stuff. Obviously, part of it's based on the licenses and stuff, but you can tell there's love in like, oh man, I need to get this piece of flesh in there, or you know, that little like twisted little piece of like muscle.
And so that all creepiest reference ever.
Yes. And that all translates now into this gorgeous stuff. So let's go ahead and talk in proper. Look at that. Look at that. I love to see that number move. We are trying to get to 175,000. As folks who are familiar with the Kickstarters, there's sort of a normal like bell curve, I guess, right? Yeah. Where it's like there's a valley, a lot of activity in the beginning, a little bit of a lull in that middle, and then all of a sudden there's a ramp up. So we're definitely looking forward to the ramp up, but it doesn't have to be that way, folks. Like, as you've said a bunch of times,
it helps everyone. It helps. Obviously, it helps the Cursed Dead team because we get closer to that goal, but it also will help every one of the other backers because we get closer to unlocking stretch goals. And if we hit those stretch goals, if we were in the perfect world and we start surpassing stretch goals, I would like to do something beyond what we've shown and what we've teased, and maybe start including some additional items with like, it's like we will have made enough money where we don't have to go and get a bank loan. So we will have enough money that we can potentially use towards giving people extra value for these releases, for these figures as is. So, I don't want to put the cart too far ahead of the horse on that one, but the idea is that like, I really respect in like the McFarlane Kickstarters where it's like, instead of there being additional items as he hits, different levels and goals, he starts including accessories and bits and pieces with the figure that's intended to be what the campaign is. So I kind of want to follow in that vein if we're given that opportunity.
100%. Yeah, no, I love that. So folks, like there really is no excuse to kind of wait. The way these things work is like, it helps kind of shore up the reality, like, hey, these figs are coming once we get the money in, once you all get the money in. And so, and it takes a whole lot of stress out of it. And as you said, it creates momentum. Oh, look at that thing right there. I got to hang out with that guy, or a version of that guy at Wade's table, and it moves beautifully.
Like you wouldn't believe, like
you've said you're an articulation junkie, and so that's one of the things that can happen now in combination with the level of detail that we get to see. Like I totally hear where someone with Phil's background comes, who's used to pushing clay, but now he's pushing pixels. But the reality is the level of detail that you can achieve now is, look at that, is phenomenal, right? It's things that we couldn't do back in the day that we wanted to in our brains, right? We wanted them to hit these poses and we wanted them to look this way. what I appreciate about what you all are doing is look at that. The sculpts are amazing. The paint is looking amazing. You know, you're working in things like soft goods and all of that, which is like real premium for today's figures. But that movement that you're doing right there, you're trying to work it all into this package. And of course, every time people, the alt heads, every time a new toy line comes on, they have the benefit of learning from everything that came before. So here you are, like taking all of everything that's come before and saying, we're going to make a great looking figure and we're going to make it move like a dream. So I love that articulated mouth. If folks don't know, what he's showing there is each of these figures that you're seeing here. These are the offerings that exist right now. So you can see the sort of distinction between the basics and the deluxe. So these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think, you can see my cursors. Yep. That's on the left. Those are all the 5 basic figures, quote unquote, because they're not really basic if you're looking at the details of these things, which we'll show off in a second. And then the deluxe, which tend to have a little bit more in terms of accessories, soft goods, body parts that are unique to the figure. And so let's take a quick look. This is just something.
Yeah, you got a super chat from Christopher Bouchard over here.
Jeebus, Christopher Bouchard, thank you so much. Yes, and I saw that. And you know what, Christopher, I wasn't ignoring you. We're definitely going to get there, but thank you for offering the $5 anyway. Would love to see Gordy. He's the only figure I backed. And what's his story? You know what? Let's work for the paying customers, and let's shout out Dom and Toy Domination. I know you were there. Great time, man.
Had a blast with them.
Yes. Were you tired after though? Because Dom has energy like nobody else.
Oh no, it was great. It was good.
Awesome.
I think was that one of our back-to-back stream day? It was. We did back-to-back streams because we did that, and then I did back-to-back streams because I did their stream. Then I went on Toy Amigos that night.
Yeah, that's right.
It was. I had the energy for Toy Domination, and then I was still pretty.
Nah, you still had your energy. Okay, so let's talk Gordy. We got paying customers here.
I will say
this guy. Mm-hmm.
I have handed. So we just had our meetup yesterday at Frankenson where we showed off some of the toy prototypes. I did hand off a bunch of those to Art with Toys to shoot some pictures of. Nice. And I did ship out a few others like a week or so back to someone who was in the chat earlier, but I don't know if I'm supposed to blow up their spot or not. I think I already have, but in general, there is someone else taking some photos that is legit toy photographers, because I am not a legit toy photographer. This Gordy picture that you're looking at is a photo that I took. But I dabble in toy photography.
This is a great photo, man.
It's cool,
it's there.
But it's in general, like, they're way better people than I am. Just like there were way better sculptors than me, and I just get to oversee them and stuff, and take credit. Lots of toy photographers that are way better. So I will say this: Gordy is one of the few figures that I still have held on to the prototype of because he's a 2-up. So Phil sculpted some of the figures in 2-up. We actually printed them as 2-ups because a
2-up meaning 200%, double the actual size for folks who may or may not know.
Yeah, so that's something that it's kind of an older industry thing when people were still sculpting traditionally. So it is double the size. But I do
and I saw those in your background. You kind of had them during Toy Amigos. Yeah, look at that thing, man.
So yes.
So tell us about this. Tell Chris Bouchard, who backed specifically for that figure, what he's getting into.
This is the closer to the actual size of the piece.
104%.
Yeah. So Gordy here, as Brick mentioned, all of the characters have these bio backstories where we're kind of intending them to all be their own standalone thing, whether that's a anthology, comic book, TV show, or even individual movies, you name it, where they each have a story that can stand alone, Gordy included. Gordy is one of the ones, when Phil sent me his bio backstory, I read it and I was like, this is a horror movie. Like, it's tailor made, like it should just come out tomorrow. Right? Sorry, some of them have music.
I was gonna say
The last dude
copyrighted.
told me after the fact, he's like, all of them should have music. He's like, reels with music perform better. And I'm like, yeah, I need to be told stuff like that. I know nothing. So yeah, some of them do have music, but this is a turnaround video, obviously, of the Gordy sculpt. But Gordy's story that Phil wrote is he was a kid that grew up. His parents had a farm, and one of the things that the farm was really well known for was its pumpkin patch. So very big around Halloween. But Gordy was not the coolest kid. He was a bit of a loner, and the bullies used to pick on him. And one of the days, the bullies ended up taking things a little bit too far, and they killed poor Gordy and left his body in the pumpkin patch. The pumpkin patch that Gordy's family had tended to for generations. The vines and everything started to grow in and kind of took over Gordy's body, and now Gordy comes back every Halloween seeking revenge. And Phil's crazy story too is that every time that Gordy takes revenge on one of these people, another face appears on his pumpkin skull. So this version of Gordy, has only seen a couple of victims, but basically by the end of a movie or something, he would start to populate more and more faces around his head. And we've talked about accessory packs and bonus packs and everything, and we would love to get there and eventually have additional Gordy heads available with.
So we're looking at
in them.
What, 3 victims there is what's happening, or maybe his face and 2 others.
Yeah.
Maybe did he ever go after those kids who killed him?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They were probably the first 3 right there. But the way Phil sculpted and designed these things, like he worked with me because of my articulation demands, but he also did a lot of design elements. Like these things are packed with detail that you've seen in the pictures. But some of what he did design-wise, which was then being like our painters, this one was painted by Punker Mike, who's also
nice.
Awesome guy in the community. Punker Mike painted this one, and it's really cool because a lot of like the striations and even some of the plating, it has that the vines and bark kind of feel to it that like that's what Phil was intending with the sculpt, and our painters were able to like take that and like run with it, and it really kind of plays off really well to give you a good look at Gordy being dark, super dark. And Gordy, just like the other figures, does come with a skull head with an articulated jaw. There are photos that link to that through the Kickstarter, so you can check it out. But it's a really cool skull head that matches kind of the green body. And it has like a really cool, like gross, decrepit kind of zombie-ish vibe to it in green that I really, really like. I think that like a couple of the characters, Gordy and then Hate and Rage, really sing with the skull heads on that's included with them that are decoed to match their bodies.
Right. So essentially, let's address that since we're talking Gordy. Great backstory. Again, like this is a movie that's waiting to happen, or comic, or whatever it's going to be. But again, I know we're kind of jumping around a little bit, but you all have talked about the packaging, and I'm really looking forward to seeing some of those prototypes. I'm sure at some point, whether it's during the life of the Kickstarter or after. But just the notion that they're going to be like VHS. Like I was born in '76. I was very much alive, going to the corner store in Downey, California, and giving dude like $1 to rent some horror movie that I probably had no business watching as a kid. And so you're doing that like sort of like
so they're going to be, they'll be this proportionately the same as a VHS. Right. So obviously bigger because the characters are between 6 3/4 and 7 inches tall. So obviously we need a little bit more space, but like what Hasbro has done with the VHS packaging, where it looks like VHS but proportionately blown up a little bit, ours is probably going to be even bigger overall proportionately than the Hasbro packaging, but not by too much. And it's also going to have a front flap, so you will be able to open it up and look at the figure if you're keeping stuff packaged. But when it's closed, it will look like a VHS tape and be designed to look like an old VHS tape, but that is only that's for, I believe, so we have 9 figures in wave 1, and that would be for 9 minus 6 of them will be VHS style packaging.
Right.
Because
let's go back.
as I was talking about the anthology, the idea, our bigger backstory of these is that the creatures, monsters, the ones that have like, or that are either newer or had like a human mutate kind of element to it, those creatures, monsters, those are the VHS style packaging. So those are kind of our classic monsters mixed with, you know, some of our newer, like Crankle is included in that, like he's a modern but still fits that more classic monster. Then we have our demons. So we do have 3 demons that have already been revealed as part of wave 1, and that's Hate and Rage, which are the demon brothers.
Which are my favorite, by the way.
Yeah, I love them. They're really cool. They if you're an 80s rocker, they have some crazy old school vibes.
Totally. Put it on a t-shirt or a van for sure.
Exactly. And I
late
do
70s
actually,
put it on a van.
Those 2 are 2-ups as well, and I do have them.
Oh. But here's this is Hate. This is Rage. If I'm remembering, I might have flipped them. No, I think that's right. This is Rage.
Is black and Rage is red.
Yes. Shout out to Cheney again. This is my favorite photo of all of them because of the highlights, the blues on this. It just looks so fantastic. Totally sets the tone and great stuff. Oh, wait. Look at that.
Hate.
You know, and a couple of people have brought up like, oh man, I wish these were the actual size. Like I want the 1/6. So I know like they're fantastic, and you guys are producing it for prototypes so you can really see and show off all the detail and the paints and everything. But like, you know, who's to say that maybe someday that happens? But
I mean, we've definitely heard quite a few people asking for it, so it's like it's not off the table. It would need to be its own thing because you know, obviously you're looking at full new tooling for a larger size. So it's but I mean, like I own a handful of Hot Toys figures, some Blitzway stuff, some Metacom stuff at 1/6 scale. I don't have a ton because I am not a baller, but like I'm not opposed to that scale. It's something that I think would be cool, and especially, you know, we talk about like the fact that some of these you could use them with different figures, like, you know, like Demon Slayer or Jujutsu Kaisen or Kaiju number 8, and it's like, oh, having slightly bigger ones, you know, to even fight against 1/12 scale figures would be pretty dope as well. So like it could be a cool thing in general. I'm definitely not just look, Plasty's like, oh, I want like half of that. Like it's like, okay, Plasty, no matter what, it's still new tooling.
Here's the deal. The reality is everything's going to cost money. We today talking about this thing are in the process of trying to get us past the finish line to get you guys the money you need to produce these. And then from there, right, it's like there's plenty of places where you could go, right? You raise more money, you based on the sales of these things. You could do larger versions of these figures or just larger figures in the line. So maybe there are 1/9 versions of these or 1/9 versions of some other new beasts. And I know you all have thoughts about where to go. But at the end of the day, the message is we don't get there till this becomes a line. And that doesn't become a line until February 1st, when they've clearly blown past $175,000, which requires the folks here, anybody watching, to either back if you can, or to tell people about it, like post it, you know, because I will say not everybody buys action figures. Not everybody's and of the many action figures collectors that are out there, not everyone's watching YouTube. Not everyone's paying attention to social media in the same way. Not everyone's in tune
with like the full Instagram feed scrolls or whatever. So yeah,
even you said I don't really watch that stuff. So this is why we need to be letting people know, because I've found that like most people, as I share stuff on the news, like even people who pay attention to stuff, are like, wait, what's this figure? What's that brand? I had no idea. And so I keep saying we, sorry, but you all need the help to push.
We're all in this together.
Yes, it absolutely. It's rising tides, all that stuff. But there's a need to get this stuff out there. And I'll say, because you're doing the whole horror thing, there's a ton of horror fans who don't necessarily get action figures either, right? Totally. And so like if you've got friends who are like, in the horror, just let them know about this stuff. And maybe they're like, I'm not into it, but let them know this stuff exists. Like this is a possibility to share with their folks,
Absolutely.
So that's the quick pitch on my end. But look at this calling out other folks. Felicity. Okay, you were on the road here.
Hate
I was showing you
are the demons. So hate and rage and the Jinn.
Right
those three are in the wave one. Now I say wave one because we do have two potential stretch goals as basic figures. One of them falls into the monster creature new category, and the other one falls into the demon category. So if our line does happen to grow from 9 figures to 11 figures, and both of those stretch goals are basic figures as well, so they'll be at that lower price point. So if we did grow, 1 and 1 would go into each of the categories. But the idea, the newer monsters, those are the VHS style packaging. So 6 of them will be in VHS, and the other 3 will be in the same size, the same dimensions, but instead of designed to look like a VHS, it's designed to look like a super creepy old book, like the Necronomicon or something along those lines, where it's going to be suited to fit the characters. So
to conjure and summon the demons, I'm assuming, right? Yes. So these are the older things before VHS existed, when humans were playing with forces they probably shouldn't have and conjuring things from below.
And then another element that's just Phil incorporated it into the design and the story for our demons that isn't, like, you could play with these however you want, so take this or leave it, but hate and rage each have a glowing blue orb in their head. So rage has it trapped actually in his mouth, and hate has it in his forehead. The Jinn also has a glowing blue orb, but it is actually in his lamp, because a Jinn, for anyone that doesn't know, a Jinn is a genie. It's another term for genie. And yes, his lamp is actually articulated and opens up, and the blue orb is inside the lamp.
Love it. So hey, let's look through those here on the Kickstarter to familiarize folks. So you've got the video, you've got this, which I'm not going to gloss over. You talked about it, but I absolutely appreciate when folks do this so that there's no guesswork and like what's involved in these figures. We're seeing the butterflies,
we're articulation. And like that's the big one of the big things with our figures is we did get this all completed and sent to a factory for quotes before the Kickstarter campaign. So we actually are like, everything is ready to be handed off to a factory. We just need the funding to be able to pay for manufacturing. So all of the work is otherwise done. The engineering is done for these figures. The paint masters are done. I know number one backer Josh Brown said auction off the 2-ups as part of the I was going to say,
I want to bring that up,
which I love that idea, but generally speaking, and like, I don't know, this doesn't necessarily apply for every factory, but you usually have to send the paint masters to the factory for them to reproduce. They don't just work off of photos. Some factories probably can just work off of photos, but generally speaking, they like to have the paint masters in hand. And you don't always get them back, and if you do, they're not always in the greatest shape or anything. So I don't know if we could do that. That's not to say we couldn't just print another one at a large size and do it at some point down the road. We just happen to be busy doing every stream imaginable right now.
And to be clear on top of that, and yes, on that note, I'm minding the time because I know you've got to hang out with loved ones as well. You should at least take a break. But I will say, even like maybe people are like, well, just print another one and paint it. Again, you're talking about somebody's time and the resources to do that. And so, like, again, sometimes we forget, but there's so much that goes into this work.
That's one of the benefits of the fact that, Josh, Phil, and myself do the prototypes that, we spent our own time and labor and costs associated to make all of these prototypes factory ready. But at the same point, this is something that we're used to. This is that, like, at that point, it's just another job to us. And, you
Right,
kind of said it
right.
before, where it's like, we're used to doing this. We do this for
Yes.
other companies all the time, but this project is where we get to see it through to completion. So,
This is your baby.
that
Yeah.
is like, it's like we get to make sure that at the end of the day, the final product is exactly what we intended it to be.
Yeah.
Very often we'll do prototyping work, and then when we get the final figure, we buy it in the store. Things have changed. Variety of reasons. We were speaking about that as well earlier. Like, who knows? There's lots of people involved in the toy making process usually.
Right.
This process is us. So we get to oversee it from start to finish. So we created these prototypes. We got everything engineered, factory ready. We just need help getting the financing for making them. And then from there, we are overseeing the full development until these things are in your hands. And I think that one of the big things that we can offer you guys is we are toy industry professionals. At the end of the day, if we get the chance to make this toy line, we will 100% vouch for the final quality of these pieces, because it's going to reflect on us for our professional jobs. Like our jobs literally will be dependent on these being good toys. We'll want to continue to work in the toy industry because it's our chosen profession. We need to make sure that this final product lives up to any of the hype that we're building for it. So, at the end of the day, we're vouching our reputations on this toy line.
Yeah, 100%. And I've heard you say that before. You're putting everything on the line, and it's 100% true. I obviously would assume people would sort of forgive, like, whatever. But I guess my point is, I want to look at the positive end of that, which is the attention to detail, the care, the passion of like, oh my God, all those years of working on a thing, then handing it off to someone for potentially someone to make notes somewhere and make a decision that takes away from our original vision, right? Like, you're like, oh, like that would have been the best, but that's gone and you have to suck it up. In this case, to put the positive spin on it, they're going to make sure that this is exactly the way they want to do it. They love this thing, and they're going to like, then I've seen that, right? I see that with Jason and Spiro and like I see that, and I want people to understand that is the difference with the indie toy game. It 100% is the difference. No,
we're not answering to shareholders or licensors. It's like no. This is, at the end of the day, us and the toy community that we're bringing these to are going to be what holds us accountable for the quality of these pieces. And I want nothing but the best.
And let me interject and add something. Speaking to the folks who have backed and folks who are listening, with this whole indie toy game and the Kickstarter, like, everybody who is backing, like, you are making this happen. This is like, while you might be like, oh, I am a customer, you're also like an investor. We said this a lot with AWOC because it's 100% true. You are making this, you are being instrumental in helping make a brand new toy line that I think is just going to raise the bar for all your other toys, right? People are going to see these monsters and like the articulations there, and they're like, well, man, if Toy DNA is doing this, why aren't my other figures doing this, right? Like, so just saying, people say vote with your dollars or whatever. Like, it's true. If you can help make this thing happen, oh my God, it's just amazing where this is going. But that said, don't be an a-hole and give the comments and be that horrible investor shareholder who's saying like, you should do this. And like, no, like, they got it. There's a reason why we're trusting these folks. We give them feedback and we'll definitely do that. But I want to do my due diligence and quickly go through these things.
Let's do it.
These figures, 9 figures, folks can read, and I'm sure they've heard. I'm of the picture's worth 1,000 words, and it's 2025, and you and I have both talked, and I'm a teacher. Like, people don't read enough. So let's just look at the pictures. Let's talk about what's here. This is the first that we saw a lot of, is that drinker.
Yes, we have five basic figures. This is our flagship character, and it's our vampire, which we came up with the moniker Drinker, which we wanted to kind of follow in that vein of like The Walking Dead, The Walkers, like it's like
right.
something that sounds cool, and it's like instead of they drink blood, so they're the drinkers. But yeah, these are vampires. The base body. We do have a little bit of reading down below of what the figures come with, which I've updated and listed all there. You have the line art below that actually shows what comes in the box. So each of the figures, you see a paint master, you see some words that show you what comes in the box, and then a picture that shows you what comes in the box with each of the characters. So the drinker comes with 3 heads. You get the open mouth vampire head, you get the closed mouth creepy smile vampire head. Then you also get the skull head that has an articulated jaw that fits onto the body and is painted to match the body. And
we'll look at those in a little bit too.
3 sets of hands.
3 sets of hands. There you go.
So what's great too is like anyone that's looking at the campaign page for the first time, if you scroll down a little bit more, there's a direct link for click here for additional Drinker Brood painted images. Then click here for Drinker Brood turnaround video. All of the characters are listed out that way in the campain, guys.
Let's go ahead and look at that.
Click and look through. But yeah.
Yes. So since we're on the drinker, there it is. There's the paint master, a painted prototype. I gotta say, folks, I'm sure they've noticed, but if you're not paying attention, you might not even notice. Yes, this is like the reality of making toys. These are bodies that are reused. But if you pay attention to the way they're painted, man, I appreciate they're so unique. And then you've got the alt head, which I think is so great to be able to see that on the body, because each of these, even though it's the same skull, articulated mouth, like mold, each one sort of like is tailored for that body. So it looks
exactly. And it's good. Like that's meant to be like just a cool bonus in general. Yeah. And like you see, like, like I like Mezco and I like soft goods, which we'll see in the deluxe figures, but our basic figures, it's like, if you want, like this skinny body will look good with clothing on it too. So it's like if you go GPS lot or something on eBay or like CJSM or like there's like lots of different areas where you can go and get soft goods for different bodies. And it's like our skinny, really highly articulated body, we've developed it with soft goods in mind. So like it could be really cool if you want crazy skull guys and everything, like, but play with these however you wish. That's the intention.
So that's the drinker, and then we'll go down to the next one in the list, which is the djinn.
So he's a genie. He's got he's part of the demon crew. And he comes with lamp that has an articulated feature that it pops open and it has the glowing blue orb inside. The line art shows this. He does come with the skull head with the articulated jaw as well. And he has 3 sets of hands plus 1. So he actually comes with 7 hands total because it's one unique hand that we made that was a little bit easier to hold the lamp because our grip hand is a little bit tighter. The open hand, he could hold the lamp, but he didn't hold it tightly. So we made a hand for him that's unique, that is just a little bit better for holding the lamp itself.
And the lamp opens and closes.
Yeah, and then you can see the glow. That's the glowing blue orb inside. Beautiful. And the lamp has some crazy details to it. There's some additional images of it, I think, that have been posted, and it's in the turnaround video as well. But yeah, it's one of those pieces where it is small, and you have to really see it in hand. It's so creepy. I love this guy. I've already talked about my desire at some point to do a repaint of him maybe and have him blue because of a certain Disney animated genie, plus the fact that he, like, the head really reminds me of the most recent Ghostbusters movie and that ice ghost that was like the main bad guy. And I was like, he gives me some of those vibes. So I really want to see this guy in like kind of blue color scheme. But there he is with the matching skull head to match his paint deco as well.
Yeah, this is fantastic stuff. I will admit at first when I sort of saw the aesthetic, I was looking at like, oh, these heads are really big. I've heard people say that the horns, but there's just something that clicked in my brain with this stuff. It was like, man, this is cool. Like knowing where Phil was coming from with the horror aspect and some of like his music background. I was like, man, this is the Eddie. This is the stuff we used to draw on our Peachy folders. This is the stuff that, like, you know, I heard you mention the other day that there's a punk band who reached out as like their mascot. That perfect. And I was like, something clicked. I was like, yeah, the B horror stuff.
I got to follow up with those guys. Thanks for the reminder.
Yeah, but it is cool. It's cool because it also stands out in the marketplace at this point. For just like a kind of a unique, like a different way of looking at these toys. Yeah, we've got all sorts of stuff. Now we're like going back to that, like that true horror stuff, but like, you know, again, the stuff that we saw, you know, people drawing and just like the most horrific things, or what we imagine demons to be. And I just think because of that, like I've heard people say like, oh, the body's so lanky. It's like, yeah, and it's a unique body for a lot compared to a lot of things I see. Like I'm all about that. Give me like
that's one of the main reasons that Phil wanted to do this one first, is that it is a little bit different. And
compare this line versus Mortal Ruin. You're talking. Yep.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's
totally
like,
different. Yep.
It's totally, it's a different thing that, you know, it's a unique take. And then also like, it's going to play well with soft goods. And then Phil has already designed 2 other base bodies, are fully digitally sculpted. And yeah, we have thoughts for the future for this line if we get the opportunity.
Good. We got Vine Jungle Figure Factor. What's going on? These look pretty amazing. I'll back a few figures for sure. Absolutely love that. Here's a quick question. There are other questions I did start if we have time, and I'm holding on to them. Folks are saying like, these are my son's personal favorite. I love it that I've seen your son. He's a smaller human being, and I love that parents like myself and you are letting our kids see this awesome stuff. Are the hands shown on the figure considered grip hands? They are slightly more open than the normal ones. I'm assuming that's what you were saying right now for the gin.
Those are kind of like the ones that are in the picture that you have up. Those are kind of the claw hands. Then there is like a kind of a tighter grip, and then there's fists. And then, the gin comes with a unique gripping hand.
So you're saying here, I love the gin. So in terms of like the lore that they're pulling from, they were made of fire first, but were hard to control.
Yeah, humans. If you Wikipedia like a gin, it's like they were like this wispier, lithe kind of body in general, but they were frequently invisible, and then they would take human form. But like, yeah, you could. I mean, like obviously we did our research. Like Phil, giant horror nerd. I am a big horror fan, but Phil like runs circles around me in that. They actually
Can you speak to this. Go for it.
They are intended to be 1/12 scale. Like Marvel Legends and like G.I. Joe Classified, all like Valaverse, all of those figures, Spiro, it's like they tend to be like closer to like 6.5 inches, so like 6.5 inches. So they're like kind of heroic 1/12 scale. Our figures, we 3D printed them at they're 7 inches tall from top to bottom, standing straight up. But that is 104%, which we're taking into account that typically figures have a 4% production shrink. If you do the math, 4%, if they get full 4% production shrink, that's going to be 1/4 of an inch, which will put them at 6.75 inches tall. So just a little bit taller than Marvel Legends in general once they're at production shrink. So all of these comparison pictures are that 4% up. So you can imagine them being slightly smaller, likely because of production shrink, than they are in all of these comparison photos.
You're estimating about 1/4 inch smaller than what we're seeing here.
Exactly.
But I love this. You know, I'm a fan of side-by-side comparison stuff because I do exactly what you mentioned here, that, you know, they mesh. My figures mesh, right? Wolverine will go up against a drinker. The drinker will be hanging, you know, on the side of He-Man, whatever. But I mentioned this, I think it was on the recent Toy Migos stream. I was like, hey man, are we going to see these side by side? Because I love that. Yeah. And I know sometimes there's a weird question as to like, are we going to use other people's stuff to sell ours? But no, like this is 2025. We're getting all sorts of cool stuff. And I love to see it side by side. So this is a McFarlane Demon Slayer. Is that what that is?
No, that's the new SHF.
Oh, no, that's actually a much better one. Yeah. No, it is. Yeah. So you can kind of see here with different lines. You've got it with Monster Force. They've worked perfectly genre-wise and side by side. You've got the new Doc Knock, some Mezco pieces, some You've got Nosferatu.
That's
and
the
his
original
awesome
Doc Knock brick. But
tights.
yeah, I didn't.
Oh, is that the OG?
Yeah, I didn't get the new one. I suck.
Oh,
I want the new one. I'm jealous.
It's gorgeous. No,
I know.
I'm not a big Mezco guy, and I happen to luck out and have someone get it from NYCC and bring it to Legion's Con.
Lucky.
I lucked out. Here you go, some Chainsaw Man.
Jujutsu Kaisen. It's one of the things that I've spoken about too, is that like a lot, like I collect a lot of anime stuff, and Jujutsu Kaisen, Demon Slayer, Chainsaw Man, Kaiju number 8. You're not necessarily getting a lot of you're getting awesome figures of the main cast, but you're not really getting as many bad guys for these figures to fight and slay. So I love the idea of, you know, these could be villains that you can use, and that's, you know, people have said it in the chat, like they're creatures and demons and monsters, so they're not necessarily supposed to be exactly eye to eye with certain characters. They will be with eye to eye with some toy lines, but you know, like that's the idea, is that they're these monsters, creatures, demons, and you're probably also rarely going to have them standing straight up and down.
No,
they're kind of meant to be crouched and posed, and like, you know, like we're intending these to work with as many 1/12 toy lines as possible.
Super smart.
Like that's the idea. They're supposed to go with these toy lines. Like I would you know, like these are all my toys that you know, I took all these pictures.
Yeah, you did.
So it's like I can't wait for Conan and Death Dealer to fight them, or Constantine or Blade. You know, like that's
perfect. That's perfect right there
to go along with it. Yeah.
Yep. No, you're absolutely right. So like on the one hand, I'm not trying to take away from the sort of lore and the concept you have behind the line, because I think it's great. The stories are there as unique IP in this character. And let's be real, folks. It's 2025. We need new IP. We need to bring some new things for folks, even though I love Batman, I love Gambit, I love Star Wars, I love all those things. But this is great. But hey, why not, as you say, let them hang out with these guys? Like every single one of these has had a version of a vampire or the Brood, if you will, right? Like, so like, this is great. Oh man, you know, these creatures that they're going up against, kaiju or whatever, demon chumps. Love it. Look at that.
So smart. Way too many toy lines.
Yeah, that's respect for sure. Okay, and then we've got here. Let's try and move. We've already talked about Gordy. We love Gordy,
but yeah, Gordy does come with all of the same basic stuff. He has the skull head, and then he has 3 sets of hands, and there are links that show you like that you can click through, and you can see Gordy with the skull head. You can see full turnaround video of him. You can see additional product photography of him as well. So it's like, oh yeah, pull it up. There you go.
For sure.
So
and I just want to
took that awesome shot that's up top. There he is with the skull head.
I just need to see that they're not dolls on top of it. But
exactly. But yeah,
but here I want them to see the skull heads too.
The skull head, like the skull heads, particularly on Gordy and then Hate and Rage, I think really help those figures like sing. You know, like I love the heads they come with, but the versatility of also having the skull heads that are in that paint deco. Like I just loved seeing that skull head, you know, in green to match Gordy. It starts to give that like, you know, gross old corpse vibe. Like this starts to feel a little zombie-ish like or some sort to me.
Totally.
You know, like I don't know. I see it and I'm just like, that's really freaking cool looking.
Intended as a quick question, but like, have you thought about ball peg, the size, like
absolutely. So I did post on Instagram the other day. We painted and modified the socket to work on a Mythic Legions skeleton. Right. So we painted one of our heads to match the same that basic bone color of Mythic Legions. I actually have that head here. I don't have a Mythic Legion skeleton around, but I think I do have the
it's okay, here we go. Oh, look at that.
I have a Valiant Knight. I might be able to pop it on.
No, it's cool. We see it.
But yeah, like this head
already, man. Look at that.
I will say that we did I mean, like honestly, like when you go through production, like stuff like sockets and everything, that's gonna change slightly.
Yes.
We did our socket. I did have to Dremel out a little bit to fit it onto the Mythic Legion's body, and Mythic Legions generally have a really big ball for their
Mhm.
neck.
Mhm.
Ours is a little bit smaller just based on our articulation because we have
Yep.
the disc hinge with a ball on top of it, and that ball is slightly smaller so we can get the full crazy range of motion on it. So a customizer will have no issue getting our heads onto
Just wanted
Mythic
to
Legion
quickly give
figures,
people
but I
a
will
context.
forewarn you may have to modify. You may have to do a
Sure.
little bit of dremeling, definitely at least some heat, like elements to get it onto another figure. But yeah,
Fair enough.
I'm a customizer too, so I want people to be able to do that stuff.
Yeah, and just to give, because of those who know, when you say it's going to be a large about this size, then they can work their way backwards and be like, okay, cool, I'll need tack to fit on this figure or Dremel. So fair enough. I just want to give people a starting point. Hayet and Rage.
Yeah,
Hate and Rage.
Hayet and Rage. Hate and Rage here. They are the Demon Brothers. We talked about them earlier. They're also there's bundle options through the Kickstarter pledges as well. So you can get, a 3-pack of the drinkers for a discounted price. Hate and Rage are, because they're intended to be the Demon Brothers together, we've also offered them as a slightly discounted bundle option. So, and you can stack bundles. You can do that as well through add-ons. So if there's characters you're interested in, I encourage you to look through the different reward options and then look through the add-ons, because there are ways that you could save yourself a few bucks buying these. But they both come with the skull head with articulated jaw. It's painted to match their bodies. 3 sets of hands as well. There's links to more pictures of them and pictures of them with these additional painted heads. All this stuff is in there. Just a little clicky reedy, all available for everyone to look at. But we also have CursedDead.com. We have a Cursed Dead Facebook page, a Cursed Dead Facebook group. We have the aforementioned YouTube page, and then our Instagram page where we're trying to post everything as well. So people should be able to find us pretty easily and look through things. Yeah, I love Hate and Rage with the skull head. Really pop, obviously that really vibrant red and then the all black with a little bit of blue highlights. Just something about them both look really cool to me.
There's
and I think
something to be said about the red and black thing sometimes gets a little bit cliche, but sure. It works. It totally works in this. Even here, there's just, because it's there's something organic, his skin is red. So I don't know. I really, really, really like this. And I'm happy that's exactly what I did. I did the 2-pack for Hate and Rage to get a little bit of a discount. And then you go in and you do your add-ons. I would say, folks, if you're unsure, again, back for something. If I'm going to probably get some back, whatever, even one, and then you can always go back and adjust and ask questions. Hit up Adam or other folks, even in the other backers in the comments section, and they'll tell you how do you go back and how do you go figure out all
just because you put a pledge in now, that helps. Putting a pledge in now helps, and you can adjust that pledge up until the end of the campaign, which is Saturday, February 1st at I think it's 6 p.m. Pacific.
Yes, it said 6:05 or something like that.
Yeah, so you can edit up until then, and you also don't get charged until then. So that's it. They're literally putting a pledge in now benefits everyone.
Yes. So here we go, and great shots. I agree. The way you've structured this thing is really great.
Thank you.
Respect.
I'm
I know
trying
it's
to
not
make
easy.
it as user friendly as possible, and I didn't want to overwhelm people with too many things and confusion.
I can relate.
We have 9 figures in the wave, so I wanted to make sure people could kind of easily go through and see what they can choose. But now we're entering the deluxe figures, and our initial deluxe figure is Dr. Crane. This one was really a labor of love from Phil. This is one where it's I mentioned I'm a creative director. I overlook this stuff and I give my 2 cents. This was one that Phil, we had already developed the drinker body and everything, and Phil knew he wanted to make this character, and I didn't see it until Phil was done with it. And it was a physical piece that we showed off at DesignerCon back in the day, and I was just floored. like no notes,
No notes.
like
Yep.
it was just like
Nailed it.
This is awesome. I absolutely love it. Phil has the background also, like, so he is a sculptor, but he comes from a family that they were tailors. So he has some experience in the realm of soft goods. So he worked on and customized these soft goods for Dr. Crane. He did Crankles and Wendigos as well. We did use an outside person that I don't know if we're supposed to name or not for Dr. Scante's clothing, but Phil did the 3 other characters. And what I've been telling a lot of people is I've been collecting toys forever. I loved 3A. 3A did soft goods in 1/12 scale before Mezco had even started doing it. And one of the things that we want to do with our soft goods is incorporate paint and distress, and like
love it.
3A was doing that, where you'd play with them and your hands would almost feel dirty, like you have to wash them after messing with it, because they're not just soft goods that you buy on eBay or whatever. It's like, no, there's paint, distress, there's more to it than just wired soft goods. And we're trying to up the artsy factor and the value and make these things really sing and feel like they were lived in, creepy, dirty monsters.
So you've got the burns in here. I'm assuming probably a little paint, like you said, to make it look like it's not just like brand new material on this that happens to be burned. And I remember those 3A, all the 3A.
Vine Jungle Figure Factory just asked, does the crane name come from the crane fly insect? I didn't know that. Phil dropped that on a stream the other day, and it's yes, absolutely. That is why the name is Dr. Crane. Phil used that. He's the main guy behind all of these bios and stories, and I just edited them and was horrified as I was reading them and editing.
Can you give us the Christopher Bouchard backer number 412? Can you answer that? He's as far as
very much inspired by the classic Fly, that classic, human experimenting with DNA is his thing. So like it was, I'm going to mess with creating the perfect DNA. His backstory is there on the Kickstarter campaign page. I encourage you to read it because it does have some like cool little other nods to things in it, but he was experimenting, and he is experimenting on himself, and he did the experiment didn't come out so good. So yes, very much in the vein of the original Fly. Phil also has that pedigree of having worked on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, so there's definitely some influences as well from Baxter Stockman and like that was also just based on that old classic Fly horror character. So this line as a whole, as I mentioned earlier, is our takes on a lot of these classic tropes. Maybe some modern stuff, maybe some crazy monsters that are urban legends, and then also our creations, our adding new characters to the kind of monster lore. But like we have so many built out beyond just what are included in this campaign, because obviously it's one of the things we get really excited about, and like we have all these spin-off characters and characters for other base bodies as well. And we're just hoping we get to show you.
Yes. Oh, man. And I don't know what we're going to have time for, but there's all sorts of stuff on those Instagrams. If you go back, you can kind of easily see some of the ideas that are coming in the future. But again, not to be that guy, but none of that happens until we zoom past 175,000 before 100%. February 1st. I want to look at this real quick. This is the additional arm. So there is a lot of reuse. There's some clever engineering here that you can go back to old other streams to kind of hear them talk about it. But the connection point here for this arm is awesome. It seems like there's a lot of smart homework on these. I love that kind of stuff, man. But also little articulated appendages that are flying off. That's a little ball joint right here.
Yeah.
Right. Same here.
Yep.
Good stuff. Beautiful stuff.
Yeah, it's that one's definitely, I think, like Phil hasn't made a secret. That one is his absolute favorite. And I think it's it seems to be a fan favorite as well across the board. I mean, it's really a cool looking figure no matter what, and no matter how you use it in your collection, it will work in a lot of different places. And it's one that I think everyone just kind of sees and it's like, oh, I get it. I get that character, you know?
And on top of that, so there's all the soft goods, but there's definitely a lot going on. So let's look at this. You can kind of see here a little bit about what's going on there. And that arm right there, when you kind of have a good look at it, so many beautiful.
Phil has got so much creepy sculpted detail. And then like there's some paint stuff. And, we have the full turnaround video also that shows off a lot of what's going on in the back. He's got a crazy right foot as well. His left hand, he has obviously the pincer hand, but he also has this skin, like it's like he shedded his original human form, and around his left wrist it's trapped in there. Damn. It's a sculpted like skin shedded hand. It's really just gross.
Right here. Yeah.
I mean, like there's so much cool body horror kind of stuff going on in this figure in general that I can't wait for people to see it up close and in person at some point. And this one I did ship out the prototype, so this one was also a 2-up, and I shipped it out. So it is being photographed probably as we speak right now by a much more talented toy photographer than myself,
who loves to shoot prototypes. So yes, I will say and hopefully we get to see also a little bit more under those soft goods, because the soft goods are great, but I'm assuming we're going to get a shot too eventually of the skull. Indeed. On this guy. Maybe actually not. This one
originally,
it's
tell you this,
Sorry.
Rick. Yes. This was the one character, because there's 9 figures in the wave, this was the one that wasn't going to come with a skull head because it has so much unique tooling. And I kind of like, my assumption, and this was my call, I was like, hey, people who get this are just going to keep it as Dr. Crane. Like, they're not going to swap the head out.
I think you're totally right in that assumption, but I'm hearing a butt coming.
But the butt is, like it, and how I was talking about earlier, it's like stretch goals and hitting and like adding additional elements into things like a la Todd McFarlane. And then we just recently teased the skull that was painted to match bone colors from Four Horsemen Mythic Legions. And I was like, well, he is a scientist. He's like working on himself, his own body. So what, like, and this isn't set in stone. This is something that, like, could be happening here. But like, we have this painted prototype that matches the bone color from Four Horsemen, and it's like, what if we included this one with him? And it's like, oh, he had it in his lab or something. It's not necessarily intended. Like, it would still pop on to the body, but like I said, I don't think anyone's going to care about that as much. But to give him a skull head where it's like, oh, it's more of a prop, or it could be used like on other toy lines or whatever, I'm kind of starting to feel like that might be a really cool idea. And, if we have the budget to do this, it's something that I would love to do,
100%. And I'm with John here from the Collecting Brothers, man. The Cronenberg like body horror,
spot on.
Fantastic.
I mean, that's exactly like that's like Phil 100%
Videodrome
influences for sure. Yeah,
Scante.
So I will say Dr. Scante is the one that's lacking right now in links to additional pictures.
That's fine,
because this coming week, this next week ahead of us is going to be a heavy Dr. Scante focused week. So we have additional pictures and video of Dr. Scante coming. He is definitely got some 50s vibes. So he is a scientist as well. He was trying to develop super soldier, like basically that never sleeps. That was his thing. He was not experimenting on himself. He was actually using crustaceans and aquatic life as part of his experiments. And his experiment went awry. It kind of
up. Yeah, totally.
He messed up. So please read the backstory. There's a little bit more to it than that, and there's some nods and humor involved in some of the naming for his backstory and characters and things that are related to other things that some people
Right.
may get, some people may need to consult Urban Dictionary, other people can just ignore in general. But he's got this like kind of like 50s
Scante.
sci-fi-ish vibe. I
He's gonna
know
have like,
Win or
well, I guess he
Lose.
doesn't have teeth, but I was gonna say, does he have like really messed up brown teeth?
You know,
But sure.
you know,
Yes,
you
yes,
got it. You get
Yeah,
you
yeah,
and
yeah.
Phil, similar upbringing, similar
Boyle Heights.
neighborhood.
No, I got you.
But yeah, his Operation Broken Windows was his the name of his super soldier project, and
Yes.
unfortunately, yes, it backfired on him, and he now can never sleep, and he only speaks through like clicks and whistles now, and yeah, there's a lot of interesting little vibe to it. But Win or Lose mentioned that he's like, this guy could look like fit great with like Dan to Dan, and I'm like, totally. I see that.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
Which is funny because like when I was looking at it
Dan to Dan.
initially, I was like, oh, he could be a bad guy for Kamen Rider, Ultraman, or whatever. But Dan to Dan, super heavily influenced by Ultraman and Kamen Rider, you know, so it's like of course it kind of fits those vibes. But yeah, Dr. Scante is
stay
pretty
tuned,
awesome.
folks. If you want to see the painted version, it sounds like it's coming. There's more.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to seeing the figure itself painted, just because I'm looking at the hints of what's that color. I think is going to be really gorgeous on that body.
It looks even better. You know, like this was actually an earlier version of him, and then Beardy went in and really just elevated the paint before I brought it to the meetup. So at the meetup, people saw it in person. It's on Instagram. There's like a couple of people like handling it, showing close-ups of it. The paint is freaking awesome on it. So there was like a tease of the paint out there, but there's going to be a lot more Scante this coming week. So
beautiful.
Yeah, he comes with a crazy 1950s inspired ray gun and everything.
Huge ray gun.
Working on that as well. So yeah, there is more Scante coming.
Beautiful. And that ray gun is supposed to fit in his claw or with his hand?
Claw. So his claws, like they're not articulated claw hands, but there'll be a softish PVC, so that way you kind of you jam it in there. But the ray gun can also be held by the other sets of hands that he comes with as well. So
it's cool
and
stuff,
he does
man.
also,
super fun. Imagine.
Yeah, he comes with the skull head, so you can actually swap out all of his warped parts and put, you know, our, I guess, human-y monster parts on there. So he have the skull head and like normal monster hands as well, if you wanted to do that.
Yeah, you can totally create this all blue skull guy, whatever, man.
Pictures of that will be posted next week as well. So yeah, it's coming.
We've talked about Crankle, but if you wanted those lyrics, if you wanted to, you know, recreate it or whatever, it's
the
here.
The whole song is there, and then there's additional pictures of Crankle with the skull head as well. With and without the soft goods on the body, so you can see him. You can see a naked Crankle if you wanted to. But yeah, all of that is linked right through the Kickstarter campaign. That shows you all the parts. So he comes with the skull head, he comes with a sculpted hood, comes with the Santa mask, multiple sets of hands, as well as the distressed robe and belt and everything. So yeah,
beautiful.
That's painted by Nico Hodge, Artman Customs.
Super talented, man, that guy.
And this one, this is our final deluxe figure, and this is one of my personal favorites.
Me too.
The Wendigo. And I've been telling people I've been carrying the Wendigo prototype around with me and shooting him in various locations because he's got to go places for Wendigo Wednesdays. So
yeah, he had to get that protein at In and Out. I saw that.
Exactly. So yeah, he visited the movie theater with me so far and In and Out, and you'll have to stay tuned for this coming Wednesday, see where he's gone next. And then I have another one for our final week for Wendigo Wednesday. But yeah, there's additional pictures of him by Cheney 180. You just showed some of those off.
I wanted to show those because they're great. But here, I'll click on those in a second. But
prototype, I also shipped that off. That one is with another toy photographer as well. So you might be seeing even better photos coming soon than my photos.
No, it's great. And so I love it's going to have the deer
The deer skull helmet,
skeleton
yeah, it
skull.
fits over him,
Mhm.
and you can see on the unmasked
that.
head that those crazy white eyes line up perfect. Like Phil obviously was inspired by a deer skull, but the deer skull itself has been heavily modified. Like it's a deformed, warped one. The teeth are all crazy.
Yeah.
The eye holes have been moved out so you can see his crazy white eyes directly through them.
Mhm.
The soft goods again have that 3A kind of vibe to them, where it's not it's a fur pelt, but it's kind of gross. We've matted it up and added some stuff to it to really give it that lived in gross kind of feel overall. But yeah, Wendigo, he comes with the skull head, his zombie head, the helmet. He comes with an arm, a half-eaten arm as an accessory that he can either use it as a snack or a weapon, like a club of some sorts, I guess. I don't know. Whatever. Play with it however you wish. But also 3 sets of hands.
And thank you again. You shared that with me on on the Amigos Discord, and I shared
you'd
that
asked
the
about it,
video
so I was like, here you go.
Yeah, it looked fantastic. I knew that it would be beautifully sculpted and painted. And I was like, I know this thing's got to look nice and gross. So, and then here are those additional shots by Cheney 180. Look at that. Just the mood of the lighting on that.
Took some
smoke.
great pictures. Yeah.
Look at that. Woo. And here he is on his day out to go watch.
There he is going to see Nosferatu, which he enjoyed.
Getting
and then
that
in
rare
and out. Where
quad 4x4 protein style.
He's insatiable. He's got an insatiable appetite, but yeah, he'll down a couple double doubles.
These are
just this is a picture that I took where he visited Big Bear with me. My wife and I went to Big Bear as our Christmas gift to one another, and I brought a toy prototype with me. So
beautiful.
Yeah, I'm you can tell I'm passionate.
Yeah. No, yeah. It's fantastic. This is cool. And then here it was with the
skull head. Yeah.
Like that alone is just a cool, different looking character.
Exactly. Yeah.
So good. And there's that little piece of meat. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the turnaround videos that are linked through all of that too. They show all the accessories and obviously full spins. So you can really get a closer look at some of that gnarly paint on the arm and the Wendigo himself and everything. So yeah, all of those turnaround videos are available. They're linked through the Kickstarter campaign, and they're also on our YouTube page. So it's like everything is kind of like, I've tried to make sure that you can go, you don't have to go to all the different places. You should be able to find everything.
But you can.
Yeah.
Click those.
Please do. Yeah.
Yeah. Tickle that algorithm. Okay. Man, so you guys have got your thing going on. So much for like, hey, Adam, let's try and go for an hour and then get out of here. But hey, you've got a big campaign, and you've got a lot of stuff going on based on the chatter and the chat. See, here you go. This is the good thing. There's value
awesome.
in doing
it.
Thank you. I will tell you right now, just in talking with you and just even doing the job of talking to myself about, oh yeah, that skull would look great with that color body. Mine will be adjusted as well.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, no, there's just a lot of really cool stuff going on here, and
encourage everyone to look at all the pictures, look through the content, see if there's anything you're interested in, and even if you're not, if you could share it, if you're part of the toy community and you share, trying to help us get a few more eyes on this, that's the big thing. We're trying to spread awareness and make sure everyone has seen this and knows it exists. Obviously, we have about 2 weeks left of the campaign, and we're hoping the final few days. We have a big final few days. We are in talks with Big Bad Toy Store, so
that was one of the questions.
That's definitely something that it should be in the near future. I don't want to announce something that's not all finalized yet, but we've absolutely been emailing and discussing back and forth with them, and obviously any retailers that are interested, you know where to find us. We're just info@thecurseddead.com, or hit us up on any of the social media. I'm basically behind all of that, and I've been answering everyone, and trying to make sure that every question gets an answer at least. So
for sure.
Yeah, we're out there.
Okay. And then the other thing Dude, Articulation. I want to point this out and show you this video because I saw it firsthand at Legion's Con. I want people to know that these videos exist, but you talk about like you love articulation. You describe yourself as an articulation junkie. I love well articulated figures, and I happen to help out a company, Spiro, who I think has some really great movement, and I want to see that bar lift. And you guys have definitely
Spiro included in the comparison shot images.
Yes. Yep.
I've backed for quite a few figures.
Yeah.
So I
look at this.
I love those.
You're hitting all the poses that like that we want to see, including the ones that are very playing with myself. This is awesome, right? I really love this. Like, there you go, on brand. Yep. But just the idea of them, like, crouching in a corner or whatever, like on a stoop. And there is this one that I want to show, because just take a look. And you were doing it earlier with a prototype.
Yeah.
But and of course, what you're seeing here is a prototype, so things are a little looser. They're going to get
the joint. So it's a 3D printed prototype, so it's all 3D printed resin. Oops. So the tolerances and stuff aren't there. Like when it's in a fully manufactured injection molded piece, it's going to have tight joints where it's supposed to. Like obviously with 3D print, some joints are tighter, some are looser, but yeah, you get an idea of the articulation, range of motion. And in fact, we've adjusted the file to increase range of motion even since those samples. Like we've tweaked more on the knees, more on the head and neck. But yeah, we want these things to move, guys. Like that's kind of what I have always been known for, and what I love, and what I like place such high regard on. So that's the intent with these things need to be able to move like crazy.
Yep. Great. Yeah. And they clearly are. And, it's the same body. So the movement you're seeing there is going to happen across the board, except, with some exceptions when they have a different arm, like crane. But even those have the articulation we were looking at earlier. What else did I want to say? I know what I wanted to not necessarily say, but I do want to take the time to actually get out of here, show our beautiful faces. Hey, but also let's address some of these questions. Are you going to do any other toy lines? And we know that's coming.
We definitely have multiple. Like I'm involved with another project that I would like to get off the ground at some point, and then we have multiple waves of Cursed Dead planned, and like we've also talked about all sorts of other, branched off, ideas as well. So we would love to, if we're given the opportunity. Yes.
So in the process, while we were going, Christopher Bouchard was like, "Hey, dude, hurry up! I want to see the pumpkin. I want to see the fly." And then we got the update by the end that he's updated to 4. So I'm happy grateful on behalf of the Toy DNA folks, and like you're welcome also because you're going to get some dope toys. Here's a question about Phil's background. Ray wants to know, did he work on that Judge Death?
If it's on his Instagram page, he worked on it. Yeah.
Got it. Larry was saying, I would love to back this mostly for my girlfriend who loves horror and cryptids. And that's what I want to say. Like, talk to those folks. Those folks, let them know this exists. Again, if they're like, I can't back right now, that's not their thing, because they're like, what does that mean to be a Kickstarter? Fair enough. Look out for it because these are coming. Buy them when they happen.
And if you're into horror stuff, share it, because you never know what other horror friends you have that might be into backing this. So yeah, that's a huge one for us, getting this out there.
So here's a thought about the because you do have a lot, and as speaking as someone who's been involved in an AWOC Kickstarter that had like a ridiculous amount of things. Why did you decide to do that
that's where we came. We landed on the 9 figures for our initial launch, because we wanted to find that we were trying to find that point where it's like, if you don't have enough, if you do 1 or 2 figures, like, or 3 or 4, you might not make enough money to like be able to hit that tooling and then the individual unit price for the minimum order quantity. So we were trying to find a happy area where we could have a reasonable goal and also make as many figures off the base body as possible to kind of recoup that money. And not like our goal here has been always to at least break even. You know, like that's what we're trying to do with this toy line, is make it a reality and not lose money. So that's where we kind of landed on the 5 basic figures and the 4 deluxe figures. And then again, we have 2 additional basics as stretch goals. And then if we were to ever get beyond that, that's where I would want to start including items with figures as is, because I don't want it to become this unmanageable amount of figures. Like, not for the first wave. I'd rather get them out into people's hands. And that's not to say we won't still do figures off of this base body in the future. We do have other characters. If you scroll through our Instagram, there's a cowboy vampire that's awesome, that's based on this, that we showed off a full prototype of way back in the day at DesignerCon. But again, he had multiple layers of soft goods, and it was one that we were just like, you know what? And Phil designed a bunch of accessories for him to come with, and he would have been like a deluxe figure. So we were like, we'll put a pin in him, and you know, he could be a 1.5 wave or something. So we actually had to, and Dr. Scante, his backstory is creating super soldiers, and it's in the bio, it's dropped as the Piercer experiment, is what he was calling them. And there's a Piercer that's been fully developed as well. So there are other characters that we have like done, guys, that we're just, you know, hoping that we get that opportunity.
You went there. So really quickly, I'll show folks.
This is, he's known as the Blood Slinger, which is also an awesome name.
Damn good.
I just love that name. But yeah, he's basically a cowboy era version of one of the drinkers. So he is our vampire cowboy. And
great sculpt. Look at that. You can kind of see the humanity still.
To be an army builder of any sorts. No. He is his own character. And like, Phil designed some of the coolest accessories with this. And we really hope we get to make this someday. Like, this is definitely one that we have in our back pocket for the future.
Is this essentially thinking like same base body, just different soft goods?
Exactly. It does have some unique tooling. Obviously, the head, the gloves, the boots. We would do, and then a ton of accessories that are unique tooling as well. But yeah, soft goods.
Look at that coat, folks. Like, look at the stitching on that
drinker body. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Look at the stitching on that.
Yeah.
Gorgeous stuff. The shirt. Damn. Yeah. It's a cool character. And look at the face. So there's that, and we'll just quickly go through, because you do have stuff out there. You mentioned a Krampus. Yeah, so these are things that are sculpted.
So that's off of the second base body that Phil developed. So it's a slightly bigger base body that we were we'd shown a werewolf character that Phil made called Pig, and then Krampus are 3 of the figures that are off of this second base body. So this would, you know, if we succeed here and we're funded, then eventually down the road, our second Kickstarter campaign would be for this slightly larger base body that's more like a Thor or Hercules kind of body. You know, it's a more muscular, bigger body. That's my wife in the background too. But yeah, this is this would be our next venture into Kickstarter, most likely. And then we do have a third base body developed that we have not shown at all yet, but Phil has sculpted, that is more of like our Hulk style. That is a really big one. But yeah,
Pig has
deformed. Phil has a crazy backstory for this. I think he has somewhat mentioned it in other streams, but
let's save it. Save it.
It's insane. And this is going to be a really cool looking one. Obviously, this is in grayscale. So we showed the werewolf and pig at DesignerCon back in the day, grayscale versions, just to kind of tease that, hey, we intend for this line to have legs and to go beyond. So yeah, I'm hoping that we get there.
So yeah, just to tease what else is there. And again, these don't happen unless wave 1 happens. So do what you can to sort of help with that effort. And then let me stop the screen. Let's bring us both back. One, I want to say, and folks are definitely appreciating everything you've got going. Like, give you some vision. It's coming. Give you a sense of what's out there. You ready to do some little sense, or not quite yet? How about a sneak peek of what you have in store for the first stretch goal?
We name dropped that it is our take on like the creature from the Black Lagoon, the Gill
Right.
Man. Like it's our kind of version of that. And his name is or its name, because it is meant to be, again, potentially an army builder if you like it. If you just want one, of course, one.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea is that they're called the Manglers. So it's the Manglers in general. And the reason why they're called the Manglers is that they are inspired somewhat by anglerfish, minus the little head dingle, because I put the kibosh on that. So blame me if you're into that. But trust me, they look really cool otherwise. So Phil has fully digitally sculpted it. We have not 3D printed it, but I think we're planning to, because we're going to 3D print everything. But we do potentially have some renders ready that we can tease. But that's mostly as we get closer to that stretch goal. Like I want us to kind of get closer to our funding goal, and then I'll really start hyping the stretch goals at that point.
Sure.
But the Mangler is the first idea, and it is going to be an aquatic, monster creature. So this would be another VHS style packaging. And then beyond that, obviously through what I said earlier and process of elimination, the final figure is part of that demon group. So, and he is terrifying.
Love it, man. Yeah, you guys are doing some great work, and I want to see this happen in plastic form. I definitely think you're one, genre wise. It pushes us into new territory, and like the sort of what can become an action figure at this time, and new IP. Always a fan of new IP. I know you're not the only ones who are coming up with Kickstarters, so that I know some people have that, but it's interesting to me. Like a couple years ago, or in the last year and a half, it's like anthropomorphic animals. We saw a lot. We're definitely going to see some cool horror stuff this year and some creatures. So I love that, man. And I'm thankful that a lot of the indie toy makers are recognizing that these could all work together.
Yeah, that's like I said earlier, Marvel and DC, like and Image, like you don't have just one company doing superheroes. So it's like we can all peacefully coexist and everyone be happy with all these different toys.
Yep. Hey man, I know this was much longer than we were talking about, but I hope it was fruitful for everybody. Yeah, always. I hope it was fruitful for everyone. It sounds like there were folks who got some stuff. If you're watching this on the replay, let us know what your questions are, what your thoughts are. There's love there being thrown. For sure. Like, let us know what you're looking at in terms of this. And if you have any questions, I'll send them over to these guys. Josh Brown, I appreciate you so much. Again, that right there, number one, investor in the Cursed Dead, Cursed Dead if you fancy. But yeah, no. And so anyway, thank you so much, man. I'm really glad to meet you in person.
Yeah. Exactly.
And great to hear your story, Phil's story, and this. So wish you all the luck, man. I'll do what I can to let folks know. And really, also, we didn't talk about it, but you mentioned it a couple times. Glad to hear that yesterday went well at Frankenson, and look out for that stuff. If I put together the links for this, I'll try and find some of the folks who are posting stuff so that people can look at Scante and some of the other things. And what's next? So right now, probably like an hour and 14 minutes into it, Phil is talking to Yimbo
and the Toy Daddies.
What do you got coming up next, and where can folks find you?
I believe this week, Monday night, I think we're on Collection Nexus. Then Tuesday is Adventures in Collecting, but I believe that's a pre-recorded. So, and then we have everyone lined up. We have Dorclair, we're beautiful, we have 3POA, we have a bunch of different appearances. But again, if there's podcasts or anything that you haven't seen us on, give them a shout, because like I basically have I put it out there, and I've been trying to schedule all of this. So I'm down. Like we're trying to do them all, and you can check them out on the Cursed Dead YouTube page through all of our playlists.
Yes, 100%. All right, folks. I didn't mention this earlier, but over by Adam's left shoulder, there's a QR code. And at the bottom, you'll see that direct link. Go to bit.ly/bricksomethingnews, capital B, capital S, capital news. And all the links will be there to everything. And I'll put them in. I got to go back and put them into the video. Back it. And then also every Thursday,
I've been doing Toy Amigos every Thursday this week. I mean, this month. But otherwise, I do it bi-weekly. I'm a part-time Toy Amigo.
Yeah. So, anyways, check them out. Thank you so much, Adam. All the best to the family in Southern California, and to you, and good luck. Here's where I play music, and you can pretend like we're in the club. Thanks, everybody. Horror, all the good things. Go play and be scared. That's it. I think I'm supposed to hide us because our faces aren't all that good. Here you go, folks. Oh, and that's totally the wrong thing, but it's supposed to say something else. But whatever. Goodbye. Thanks all.